we're back. Please let this not get frame drops and all that jazz. I really don't know what to do with the CPU. I don't know what's going on with it. So weird. Keep forgetting the camera's over there. Hi. Should I? Yeah. Just chilling to some music right now. Waiting for people to come. My younger sister made this thingamajig. She wanted it to be bigger and I wanted it to be bigger too, but she thought she didn't have enough yarn to do it, even though she had this big bundle of yarn. Old yarn of mine that I tried to knit a scarf out of years and years ago, at least 10 years ago. Never got anywhere. Knitting's just not my thing. I really hoped she could make something bigger and more, yeah, something bigger for me to play with. I mean, I do have this fidget toy, but I kinda accidentally broke it during class. I accidentally pushed it off the table. It was an accident, obviously. I tried to put it back together, but I just haven't gotten to it. Sorry. It's on my table right over there. So, today, obviously, we're going to continue reading The Hidden Kingdom. And I do really apologize for not streaming Wednesday. I just really did not feel good Wednesday. I didn't feel good physically or mentally. So, I just didn't have the energy to actually stream. But I'm here now, and I'm thinking that to make up for it, I'll be reading not 5, but 10 chapters today. Yeah. Don't worry, I haven't read ahead. I started reading a Legends book instead. In the same universe, just way before these books happen. So I'm not gonna be spoiled. But we're gonna have an actual legit hydration break this stream because I'm gonna run out of water. And I'll have to go downstairs to get some more water. I mean, I do have some juice, but it's not the best juice. I should have bought something else when I bought it. I say as the broke 19-year-old I am. Oh yeah, and I really hope you tune in tomorrow and Saturday, because we're going to be playing some Thunderside's fan games. I'm sorry if that was loud. But yeah. Wait. Could it be that the sound is not being recorded on my face cam, but actually my computer? I'll mess around with the sound a bit. Bam 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 bam. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Huh. Could it be this? Yay! I did it! I did it! Now I can see myself talking there. Oh yeah, and I spent 3 hours on a call Tuesday with Bones. They ended up having to tell me to go to sleep because it was 2 a.m. for me at the time, and they just kept, go to sleep, go to bed. I'm like, just don't. It's 7 hours time difference. They're 7 hours behind me, so I don't always get a chance to talk to them and stuff. That's them. I drew that over a year ago for Valentine's Day. Ugh, gosh. My hair. Really need to get something done with my hair. Color is not good. Well, I will be getting money next week, so I'll be able to get some bleach and some new hair dye. Though I will be getting some legit hair dye, not cheap hair dye, because this was supposed to be purple. It did not turn out purple, as you can tell. And it was so long ago. And I kind of miss blonde me. We kind of joked at the time that I was the Malfoy to Bones' Potter, because at the time they had their hair their normal color, hair color. Or that I was their Elsa, or I was Elsa to their what's her name again? I don't remember her name. I'm sorry. I haven't actually watched Frozen 2. I know, shocker. I don't know what's kept me from watching it. I just haven't. It's the same with WandaVision. I haven't watched that either. I've watched snippets, maybe an episode or two, because my parents were watching it, but I just never got into it. Now, when The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which premiered today with the first episode, that is more my style to watch. I already watched the first episode, and I was at the end, I'm not going to spoil anything, don't worry, but at the end I was who the is that? That stupid smother, that weasel, that So yeah, I will be up so early to watch the new episodes. And I'll have to not spoil it to my parents as well, because they're also words. What are those? My parents are also going to be watching it every Friday when it comes out. So yeah. So, are we prepared for like maybe 2 hours? Not 2 hours, 4 hours of streaming? Because I'm not. But here we go, I guess. Let's hope someone tunes in along the way. Or, just rewatches it. I just watches it after I'm done, because I know there are people still in school at this time. Yeah, remember that. Because I gotta remember that. Take that into account, because I know Eden really, really want to watch my streams. But they have to go during them because of school. Like, I just... Yeah. Want you guys to see it. When I'm streaming. So you can have fun with me in the chat as well. But, yeah. Enough about that. So, where we left off Monday is that they found Rainwing Village. And Tsunami found out that nobody knew she was missing. Nobody knew her egg was missing. But she also found out one of the Rainwings showing them around. Jambu is her brother. And she kinda got a sloth pet. She's not gonna... And it's clear that she doesn't want to admit it, but she really adores the little girl. I mean, they're just so cute. I'm smiling. But yeah. Chapter 6. Tsunami. Why did I say tsunami? It is Glory. Take 2. Chapter 6. Glory was not surprised to find Tsunami twitching violently in her sleep when she and Jambu landed. The Sea Wing would probably be ready to fight someone the moment her eyes opened. What was surprising, though, was discovering that Starlight got up to them when he was bored. "Hey, Glory," he called the moment he spotted her. "Watch this!" The Nightwing rolled one of the larger pieces of fruit, a round, light, pinkish, melon-looking thing, in front of Clay's nose and jumped back. Although he was still knocked out, Clay's nose started twitching. His snout trembled and sniffed an inch closer and closer to the melon. His stomach growled loudly. His tongue flicked in and out. Starlight took the melon away again, and Clay stopped moving with a long, tragic sigh. "Isn't that hilarious?" Starlight asked Glory. She gave him an amused look. "I've always figured torturing our living friends would be funny." He sat back and flung his tail over his talons, frowning. "I didn't have anything else to do. It's been unbearably quiet with everyone sleeping." His eyes flicked to Jambu. "Have you asked her your..." "Yep," Glory interjected. "Dead end." "We're brother and sister," Jambu announced gleefully. Starlight tilted his head slowly and to one side and gave Glory an "is he joking?" look. "You don't seem much like," he politely understated. Why the frick can I not read? What are words? "Why, I'm here. You've just severed." She shrugged, and the sloth on her backside said, "Scribble." Starlight's eyes nearly popped out of his head. "Glory," he said, "there's sloth on you. You've got a sloth. It's sitting right on your neck. I know, Glory said. Apparently they're like pets to the rain wings. This one likes me, even though I've explained to it that I'm pretty disagreeable. Oh, fascinating, Starflight said. His talons twitched as if he were dying for a scroll to check or something to write notes. Or somewhere to write notes. If I remember right, pets don't tend to do well in dragon communities. They usually get eaten by forgetful relatives or sometimes by the owner herself. Scavengers, on the other talon, apparently keep all kinds of odd prey animals as their pets, like cows and goats and fish. That's according to uh that is a weird word. A longitudinal? Yeah, I don't remember that word. Sorry. Oh, that's going a bit. I hate slow frames. I don't know why my CPU is so bad. Like, come on. It should not be this bad. That's according to a longitudinal study of peculiar scavenger behavior. Anyway, Glory remembered that scroll, but she hadn't taken it very seriously. Some of the things scavengers supposedly did were too absurd to be real. I know, right? We would never eat our pets, Jumbo interjected. Why bother? There's enough fruit in the rainforest. To be sure, no rainwing will ever go hungry, and the sun gives us more than half the energy we need to survive anyway. So, you really don't need meat? Starflight asked, giving Glory a sideways glance. You're all vegetarian? Vegetarian dragons? Jumbo waved his front talons airily. We're not strict about it. We eat what we feel like eating. Bananas are easier to catch and peel more than monkeys are, that's all. Lazy fruit eaters, Glory thought, just like everyone says they are. But they also have tranquilizer blowguns and a cleverly designed hidden village, she reminded herself. It didn't help. They didn't even notice my egg was gone. Ouch! Said a small voice behind them. I think something bit me. Where are we? Starflight bounded over to Sunny's side. Are you alright? He asked, helping her stand up. The little sandwing blinked several times and stared around at the Rainwing village. How did we get here? She shook out her wings and peeked over the edge. Oh my gosh, that's a long way down. Glory, you have a cute fairy thing. Can I hold it, please, please? Why not? Glory said, disentangling the sloth from around her neck. Just don't eat it. She passed it over to Sunny, who cradled it gently between her front talons. The sloth poked Sunny's nose in a curious, exploratory way, then climbed up. I think there's like then climbed up it onto her head and sat down with a yawn. Yeah, that's something not right here. It's something, a mistake. Obviously, there's a mistake that didn't get noticed. Ooh. Then it climbed up onto her head and sat down with a yawn. It's not afraid of dragons at all, Starflight mused. Fascinating. Webs moaned. He clutched his head with his eyes still closed. Everything hurts. Sunny crawled over to him and checked his wound. Even from where she was, Glory could tell that it looked worse. The blackness was spreading and the scratch looked angrily twisted and raw. Nothing's going to get me! Tsunami yelled, leaping up her feet. I'll fight off any poisonous bugs. Ah! Where are we? She wobbled on her talons and tipped over with a thud. Don't move too fast, Jumbo suggested helpfully. The tranquilizer takes a little while to completely wear off. Tranquilizer! Tsunami shouted. How dare you! Tsunami, stop yelling, Glory said, or I'll ask him to knock you out again. I'd like to see him try, Tsunami cried. Please do, Glory said to Jambu. Do you have any darts that last for, say, days? We don't do multiple darts in one day, Jambu explained, taking Glory seriously, just to be safe. Tsunami flared her wings and glowered fiercely. Glowered. What the freak is that word? Why can't I say that word? Glowered? I don't know. Tsunami flared her wings and glowered fiercely at Jambu and the other rainwings, who were beginning to gather on the platform around them. Suddenly, Glory thought the bright purples, deep oranges, turquoise blues, and lemon yellows looked somehow too shiny and too vivid now. She'd guessed that they were showing off for her friends, except she got the feeling all rainwings woke up every day and spent hours trying to look more colorful than everyone else. Clay? Sunny said. She nudged the slumbering mudwing. Clay, wake up! Are you alright? Is he alright? He should be fine. Oh, he should be fine, said Liana, swooping up behind Jambu. His nose wasn't any different from the rest of yours. I'm awake, Clay muttered. He buried his head under his talons. I'm just waiting until Glory and Tsunami stop fighting. I was dreaming about sheep and buffalo and bears. They were all on the table in front of me, and I had to decide which one to eat first. Oh, and they all smelled like melons. That part was kind of weird. Sunny! Tsunami cried, making the sandwing jump. Stay very still. There's a sloth on your head. If I hit it just right, we can share for dinner. She stepped forward, flexing her talons. There was a murmur of disapproval from the watching rainwings. Oh, no you don't, Glory said. She brushed past Tsunami and snatched the sloth away from Sunny. It cheerfully wrapped its arms around her neck and reburied its nose in her ruff. That's mine, Glory said to Tsunami. Yours? Tsunami echoed. Yours as in you're saving it for a midnight snack. Mine as in don't touch, Glory answered. And don't make snide comments either. Me? Tsunami said. You're telling me not to make snide comments? Clay, come on, Sunny said, tugging on his ears. Make them stop so somebody will help Webs. Glory had more or less forgotten they'd come to find a way to cure... Trying that again. Take 2. Glory had more or less forgotten they'd come to find a cure for the poisoned sandwing scratch near Webs' tail. She glanced around at the watching rainwings. Their eyes were white as full moons, and their scales glowed with pink and blue bubbles of curiosity and enthrallment. They looked as entertained by Glory's spat with Tsunami as the Skywings were by an actual gladiator arena battles. Maybe they resolve all their arguments by taking naps, she thought grouchily. Clay heaved himself upright and stretched, his muscles rippling. A few of the younger rainwings went, "Ooh," and tried to change the scales to match his, muddy brown with undertones of glowing amber in the sunlight. That's right, Starflight said to Sunny. We should focus on webs. Of course you're right. I'll take care of this. He turned to Jambu and Liana. I read ahead. I am reading ahead. Stop me. He turned to Jambu and Liana. We urgently request an audience with Queen Dazzling. The two rain wings wrinkled their snouts thoughtfully. Queen Dazzling? Liana said, You don't mean that. I do, Starflight insisted. It's of the utmost importance. We must see her at once. Dazzling, Jambu said to Liana. It's not a month, is it? I don't think so. Liana agreed. I guess I could see her anyway. We must, Starflight said firmly. Take her to her at once. Wait, Glory jumped in. What do you mean, not her month? Well, Jambu said, wouldn't you rather see the current queen if it's so important? Starflight's pompous attitude fizzled out like someone had dumped a pile of snow on it. But, he said, but the Nightwing guide to the tribe said, I'm sure it said Queen Dazzling. It also said we have no natural weapons, Gloria pointed out, so perhaps it's not the most reliable source, at least about Rainwings. Who's the current queen? She asked Liana. I'm pretty sure it's magnificent right now, Liana said, unless she handed it over to Grandeur a bit early. Oh no. Glory thought, don't say it, don't say it. You take turns being queen? Tsunami burst out. Are you serious? Only the ones who want to, Liana said. Most of us find it way too much work, you know. Yeah. So boring. Dragons bother you all day long, Jambu agreed. Makes me glad I can't be queen. So, who can? Gloria asked. Anyone or only the royal family? Royal family, Jambu echoed with great amusement. Alright, Gloria said. Rainwings don't do families. She informed her friends. Sunny tilted her head, but luckily the Rainwings kept talking before she could say anything sympathetic. Pretty much any female in the tribe can be queen if she wants to, said Liana. Really? Tsunami said curiously. How about me? Can I be queen? I'm originally a princess, you know, and I'm really good at telling dragons what to do. Liana and Jambu looked at her dubiously. Tsunami shifted her sea blue wings, raised her snout in a queenly way, and flashed her royal glowing patterns in her scales. Well, Jambu said, I guess you could ask. Absolutely not, Glory said. Have a little tribe dignity for Moon's sake. You cannot have a sea wing as queen of the Rainwings. Tsunami quit that. But when you say it like that, it does sound weird, Liana agreed, scratching her ruff with one talon. Glory didn't want to know what Tsunami was thinking right then. Something about what a useless, ridiculous tribe this was, probably. So, fine. Take us to Queen Magnificent, she said. How far is the palace? Most of the Rainwings politely tried to muffle their laughter. We don't really do palaces, Liana said. Come on, follow me. Jambu and the other Rainwings stayed behind, waving like a bowl full of butterflies. As Glory settled the sloth on her shoulder again, and she and her friends followed Liana up into the treetops. The treehouse she led them to was not much different from the others, although it was a bit higher and closer to the sun. With an open roof and 5 giant open windows in the curved outside walls. A short hanging walkway glowing with... I'm sorry, what is this flower? Fuchsia. How the freak do I say that word? Like, come on, I'm Danish. I'm pretty sure if I was born in an English-speaking country, I wouldn't know what this word is or how to say it. Fuchsia? Fuchsia flowers? A shirt hanging workway glowing with fuchsia flowers, shaped like dragon tongues, led from the doorway to another large platform. 7 dragons were standing in a line on the platform. Most of them looked bored or sleepy, although 1 or 2 had angry red flickers sparkling through their scales. Here you are, Liana said, landing and nodding at the end of the line. Magnificent will get to you eventually. She squinted up at the sky. Probably before dark, depending on what these others are here to complain about. We have to wait, Tsunami barked. In a line? Shouldn't visitors to the rainforest automatically go to the front? The waiting rain wings all shimmered green with displeasure and shot Tsunami unfriendly looks. We can wait, Tori said. No big deal. The sloth flopped out on her back and made a snoozy sound. It's a big deal to Webs, Sunny pointed out. Look how much pain he's in. Webs contrived to look even more pathetic than he had a moment earlier. He flopped down on a platform and groaned softly. Sorry, Liana said. This is how we do it. To be fair, nobody gets to go ahead of anyone else. Tsunami drew herself up as tall as she could and glared at her. Didn't I mention that I'm the royal daughter of the Queen of the Sea Wings? That sounds lovely for you, Liana said. I'm on a gathering patrol now, but I'll come back to check on you all afterward. She took a step back, made a cheeky little bow to Tsunami, and flew away. Well, I never, Tsunami sputtered. Maybe we should tell them who we really are. Shh! Glory hissed at her. We agreed to stop doing that. You don't think Queen Magnificent would lock us up, do you? Said Sunny. Doubtful, Starflight agreed. I bet these dragons haven't even heard of our prophecy. I'm not sure they'd particularly care. True, said Glory. They don't care about much. Better safe than sorry, don't you think? Clay said. I vote we keep quiet. I mean, you never know how dragons will react, right? Sorry, Tsunami. No, you're right, she grumbled. She stretched her wings and neck. I just can't believe they knocked us out, and now they're making us wait around to see the Queen. Yeah, Gloria said, it would make so much more sense if they chain you all up in a cave and starve you and ignore you for a day or 2, and then throw you in prison after you save one of their princesses. Oh no, wait, that's what your mom did. At least there's food here, Clay said, over Tsunami sputtering. He had scooped up a pile of the fruit from the first platform and brought it to him. Looking pleased with himself, he started arranging the choices in front of him. What do you think these are? He took a branch covered in what looked like bright yellow sundrops. The dragonets shared the fruit. Even Webs perked up enough to eat. But Glory wasn't hungry. She passed the small orange fruit up to the sloth, but didn't eat anything herself. Like Jambu had said, the sun had filled her up more than any food ever had, which was weird. And she didn't want to think about it, or about what it meant she'd been kept away from something so important for practically all her dragonet years. Instead, she wandered toward the walkway and back, trying to peek across to the Queen's treehouse. Through the windows, she could see rainbow scales, bright blue and shimmering yellow and emerald green. She also spotted garlands of white flowers with petals like dragonfly wings. The rain wings seemed to use flowers for decoration, the way the other tribes used jewels and precious stones. Glory glanced at Tsunami. The sea wing was still wearing the strands of pearl her mother had given her in the Kingdom of the Sea. She acted like she'd forgotten they were there, but occasionally Glory saw her running them through her claws. But her mother was a little crazy and a smidgen evil. Glory thought to herself, wouldn't I rather have no mother than one like Queen Coral? Even if she did come with pearls? What are you seeing the Queen about? She asked the first dragon in line. He jumped, startled to be spoken to. Oh, he said slowly, I'm just wondering if I get my assignment changed. Like, right now I teach dragonets about fruit gathering. But I really think I'd be better at, like, advanced napping techniques. Glory only barely managed to not laugh out loud. He was clearly not joking. Was advanced napping techniques an actual subject? She decided it would be rude to ask. How about you? She asked, turning to the next dragon in line. This one was tall and pale orange, and a small grey-blue dragonet sat in the curl of her tail, frowning grumpily. I'm bringing this dragonet in for punishment, said the tall dragon. He seems to think it's funny to stuff berries up the noses of sleeping dragons during suntime. The little grey-blue dragon huffed a noise that was somewhere between amused and outraged and made a gruesome face at Glory. She made one right back, and he gaped in surprise. I'll tell you why I'm here, snarled the third dragon in line. He was one of the two with furious red flickers along his ruff. The other was at the back of the line. Glory thought they might be the only angry rain wings she'd seen so far. Uh-oh, said the napping techniques dragon with a sleepy smile. Mangrove is complaining about something again. The tall orange dragon chuckled appreciatively. Complaining about something, Mangrove yelped. I'll say something we should all be complaining about. My orchid isn't the only one who's missing, you know. Glory tilted her head. Your orchid? She asked. Was this another weird rainwing thing where it would turn out they were bizarrely attached to their flowers? My partner, Mangrove growled. Orchid, she's been missing for 3 weeks. I've asked the queen every day since then to send out a search party. Sometimes dragon needs a break, said the first dragon with a shrug. Maybe she's taking a really long nap somewhere, agreed the tall orange dragon. 3 weeks, Mangrove hissed. Other dragons are missing too? Glory asked Mangrove. At least 12 in the last year, including Orchid, he said grimly. A chill crawled down Glory's spine. So the mud-winged soldiers weren't the only ones encountering something malevolent in the rainforest. There was something out there, lurking behind the colorful birds and exuberant flowers and tall, whispering trees. Something that could take out mudwings at once and also make 12 rainwings disappear without a trace. End of chapter 6. That was quite a long one, I say. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Oh dear. Yeah, it was a long one. It's like, ow. Ow. Chapter 7. Next! Boomed a voice from the queen's treehouse. The first dragon ambled across the bridge, yawning, and slid through the curtain of silvery yellow flowers. that hung in the doorway. "Can I come in for your audience?" Glory asked Mangrove. She wanted to know how Queen Magnificent would handle the problem of missing rain wings. "Why?" Mangrove asked suspiciously. "I'm not letting you have my turn." I'll just listen," Glory promised. He said. "All right, I suppose." She turned to the last rain wing in the line and took a guess. "You hear about a missing dragon too?" "A dragonette," the rainwing answered. The scarlet flickers in her ruff were reflected in the dark burgundy of her scales. "Everyone thinks I lost her while we were venom training, but I know it wasn't my fault." She stamped her talons on the wood platform and hissed at the skeptical looks on the nearest dragon's face. "So, what happened to her?" Glory asked. The burgundy dragon flung her wings up. "I don't know. Maybe she ran off. She's a terrible student and a pain in the tail. I just want to be cleared so I can have my assignment back." Poor Bromelaid. If you have no assignment, that means last choice of sun-time spots, and only leftovers at feeding time, the pale orange dragon explained to Glory. "It's not a lot of fun." "You must also want to find her," Glory said to Bromelaid. "Aren't you worried?" "She'll show up eventually," said Bromelaid, flipping her burgundy tail back and forth. "Assuming she's still alive," Glory thought. "If you're both here about missing dragons," she said, "wouldn't it make sense to see the Queen together?" Bromelaid and Mangrove blinked at each other, considering. "Next!" called the voice again. The first dragon emerged and flew away, and the orange dragon hauled her dragonette across the bridge into the treehouse. "There could be totally different explanations," Mangrove said. "I'm sure something terrible happened to Orchid. And I'm pretty sure Kinkajou..." I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry. That name caught me off guard. I don't want to mispronounce it. Like, I'm probably mispronouncing Bromelaid. Kinkajou? Yeah, I'm gonna say Kinkajou. "And I'm pretty sure Kinkajou ran off to spite me," said Bromelaid. "Still," Glory said, "I mean, it makes no difference to me, but maybe she'd listen to 2 dragons more than she'd listen to 1. Bromelaid glanced at the 3 dragons in a line between her and Mangrove. One was fast asleep, and the other 2 seemed to be half listening, half watching butterflies. "Next!" "Come on," Mangrove said, reaching back and hauling Bromelaid up with him. "And you too," he said to Glory. "Wait here," Glory called to her friends. Clay looked up with melons stuffed in each cheek, and she hurried over the walkway after the rainwings. As she hurried over the walkway after the rainwings, Glory heard Tsunami starting to protest, and then the voices of Starflight and Sunny hushing her. The hanging vines of yellow flowers smelled like honey and vanilla. They swished against Glory's snout as she pushed through into the sunlit room beyond. To her surprise, there were no guards, no soldiers protecting the Queen, no heralds announcing each arrival. The only dragon in the room was Queen Magnificent herself, curled on a sort of nest made from lacy scarlet flowers and scraps of russet monkey fur. The Queen was as large as Coral, but personally Glory thought she was a lot more impressive. Instead of gaudy robes of pearl, Magnificent only wore a few garlands of the white dragonfly wing flowers, which set off the iridescent brightness of her shifting scales. Settled under one of her wings was a silvery grey sloth, much like the one on Glory's back. It made a welcoming "yarp" noise, and Glory's sloth burbled in response. The queen flicked the point of her tail and leaned forward to sniff at Glory. Her green eyes were friendly and a little sleepy looking. "You're new," she said cheerfully, "aren't you? How exciting. I like new things." "It's my turn," Mangrove insisted. "This dragonet just wanted to watch." "All right," said Queen Magnificent, as if she wasn't that curious anyway. She turned to Mangrove and Bromelade and wrinkled her snout to look like she was listening. "Go ahead." "You know why I'm here," said Mangrove. "Orchid is still missing. It's been 3 weeks. We have to go looking for her." "Orchid," said the queen, tapping her chin thoughtfully. "Of course, still missing. Orchid." "I come to you about this every day," Mangrove said. "Remember, we were fruit gathering and she disappeared?" "Mm-hmm," said the queen. "What about you?" Bromelade shook out her wings. "My student Kinkajou ran off during a venom training session and hasn't come back. I want the blame lifted from me so I can go back to my regular life." "How long ago was this?" the queen asked. "About 18 days, said Bromelade. "She's no one's favorite dragonet, I might add." "All right then," said the queen. "You may start training again." "Thank you," said Bromelade with a bow, backing toward the door. "Hang on," Gloria said. "Not that it means anything to me, but isn't anyone worried the two dragons disappeared within a few days of each other?" "Did they?" said the queen. She curled her front talons around her sloth and stroked its head. "They'll probably turn up. Dragons usually do." "Not lately," Mangrove said. "We have 12 dragons missing from our village right now, including Orchid and Kinkajou." 12, murmured the queen. Someone's been counting? Who has that kind of energy?" She yawned and looked at her claws. There was an awkward pause. Bromelade shuffled a few steps closer to the door. Mangrove coiled his tail tightly around his talons and glared at the queen. Gloria said, "Look, again, this is none of my business, but maybe someone should investigate, like, find out if they all disappeared from the same general area, or if they have anything in common, or if they left any clues behind." All right, the queen said generally. "Sounds tiring. Who wants to do that?" Gloria looked at Mangrove, but he was already pointing at her. "She should do it," he said. "She seems like she has useful questions." "Splendid," said the queen. "Let's do that. Problem solved. Next." "Next!" "Wait!" Gloria said. "I don't do stuff like this, and I'm kind of busy with other things." Well, the text following, she's like thinking, well, I guess that depends. Saving the world and stopping the war is what the Dragonets in the prophecy are supposed to do, and I'm not actually in the prophecy, but I guess if I accept my regular Brainwing destiny, then there's absolutely nothing I have to do. Tag along on someone else's destiny or settle for a future as a snoozing dingbat. Fantastic choices you've left me with, talents of peace. Mangrove and Bromelade had already swept out the door. Glory started to follow them and then jumped back a tsunami person, followed by the other dragonets. Clay and Starflight had their shoulders under Webb's wings, and their guardian was staggering like his tail was about to fall off. "Ooh," said the queen, perking up. "You're all new." "What about?" Glory glanced out at the waiting platform and saw the other dragons were gone. We convinced him that our situation was an emergency, Starflight said. Well, Sunny did. Sunny beamed. Greetings, Queen of the Rainwings, Starflight said grandly. He swept his wings out and bowed low. Ooh, the Queen said again. We have come to you despite great peril, in a time of crisis, to throw ourselves upon your merciful... We need your help, Tsunami said. Magnificent's wing drooped a little. Oh dear, she said. Do I have to do something? Oh, I gotta stop myself. I'm reading ahead. Ah! This is Webs, Sunny said, tugging on his talon to lead him forward. She pointed to the venomous gash near his tail, and Queen Magnificent made a disapproving tsk, tisk noise. That is very ugly, the Queen observed. It sure is, said Gloria. Also, it's killing him. Minor detail. Your dragons know about poison, Tsunami said. We need someone who can help us cure him. That doesn't look like something one of us did, said the Queen. We never use our venom on other dragons. All of the dragonettes shot sideways looks at Glory. She narrowed her eyes back at them. I dare you to tell her what I've done to save your stupid scales. It's not Rainwing venom, Starflight said hastily. He was scratched by a sandwing's tail bob. Oh, said the Queen. I don't know anything about those. She took a deep breath to yell, Next! But Sunny interrupted her before she could. Oh, please, you must have healers, she pleaded. Someone who could look at it, please. We don't want him to die. Well, some of us don't, Glory muttered. Queen Magnificent tapped her claws on the treehouse floor. Her sloth seized one of her talons and tried to gnaw on it. We do have healers, said the Queen, rolling her sloth playfully onto its back. I guess you could talk to them. There are about 12 tree lodges down from here. In the one with the red berries growing on the balcony. She pointed out one of the windows. They might not be able to do anything, but you may ask. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I need to find Sunny's voice again. Thank you, Sunny said, backing toward the door. And don't forget to report back to me on that investigation, Magnificent said to Glory. It'll be nice to have something to make Mangrove go away. What's your name anyhow? Glory, she answered. I was stolen from your wings by this dragon 6 years ago when I was still an egg. Glory pointed to Ebbs. Oh my, said the Queen. That is rude. Well, I'm glad he finally brought you back, dear. He did nothing of the sort. Glory flared. I brought myself back. He was going to let me die. Glory, Tsunami interrupted with a frown. What are you doing? I don't know, Glory thought. Maybe I just want someone to be punished for everything I've been through, and the fact that nobody here even noticed I was gone. She took a deep breath and forced all dark rolling red and billowing orange out of her scales until she was a calm white, like the blossoms around the Queen's neck. Nothing, she said to Tsunami. Whatever, I just figured Magnificent would want to know what happened to me, but she doesn't, and who really cares anyway? Glory bowed to the Queen and stepped over to the door. You all go see the healers. I'm going to start looking for the missing dragons. She pushed through the yellow flower curtain. Because someone should care when a dragon disappears. Oh! That was end of chapter 7. That wasn't very long. Also, I think my voice is kind of like gotten used to it. It doesn't hurt as much as it usually would when I read aloud. You know, it's like when you stand up all day when you're not used to it, then your feet hurt. Pretty much. Yeah, it's the same with talking. And the frame drops are awful. Well, it's not really frame drops, it's slow frames. I have 6 slow frames. Oh god. Chapter 8. And I gotta yawn, I think. Chapter 8. Halfway across the bridge, Gloria heard Clay's voice behind her. Wait, he called. His heavy talon thumped on the walkway, making it shake and jump underneath her. What missing dragons? Some big scary thing is prowling the rainforest, Gloria said. She resettled her wings, or at least something is making rain wings disappear. Probably the same thing that killed those mud wings. I'll figure out what. No big deal. I'll catch up with you afterward. We don't all have to scope webs everywhere, Clay said with a smile. I'll come with you, and we'll bring Starflight too. Maybe we can help. Starflight, he called. The Nightwing poked his head out through the hanging flowers. Let Tsunami and Sunny take webs. You can come with us. Glory shrugged, but her wingtips turned pink, rose pink against her will. At least there were a couple of dragons who cared if she existed. Aww. After all, the only reason she was still alive was because Clay had been willing to risk his life in the underground river to save her. The golden sunlight was slanting sideways through the tall green trees. As Glory, Clay, and Starflight glided between the branches, small whirlwinds of orange and blue butterflies lifted off and landed again behind them. I gotta yawn. Oh. Funny-faced little monkeys with long tails chattered indignantly when the dragons swooped by. They found Mangrove on a small platform by himself, sorting fruit. Glory landed lightly in the middle, while Clay perched on the edge and tried to keep his feet and tail from squashing any of the berries. Starflight found a nearby branch and studied the fruit as if he were trying to match it with pictures from the scrolls he'd memorized. The red streaks in mangrove shrubs had been replaced by whirls of dark purple. He looked up and nodded Why are there so many words? I don't know any right now. Brushquilly? Brusquely. Brushquilly. I don't know. At Glory. You got me into this, Glory said, so I'm starting with you, since you might be the only dragon who even knows about the missing rain wings. Who was the first to disappear? Mangrove put down a banana, and looked up at the sky, thinking. It must have been Splendor, he said. She just finished her turn as queen and passed it to Dazzling. Whoa, Clay said. There's a queen missing? Well, she wasn't queen that month, Mangrove pointed out, and when she didn't come back, they just started skipping her turn. If she wanted it, they figured she'd show up for it. Was anyone with her when she went missing? Glory asked. She felt the sloth circle and settle around her neck again. She kept forgetting it was there. It felt like a warm, fluffy necklace when it wasn't moving. Mangrove shook his head. Not as far as I know. I noticed she was gone only when her chain came back around and she wasn't there. But I can guess when she went missing because the sloth found someone else to live with right around then. Glory tapped her claw on the platform and thought about the Sea-Wing Court, where politics and intrigue and betrayal all simmered below the surface. Not to mention the Sandwings, where three sisters were tearing apart the entire dragon world in their fight for power. Maybe one of the other queens took her out? she suggested, like dazzling or someone wanted a longer turn or less competition. Starflight nodded as if he had the same thought. Mangrove's ears popped faintly yellow and then back to purple again. Nothing like that changed, he said. The turns are the same length, 1 month each, and there were only 6 dragons in the tribe willing to be queen in any case, now 5, so none of them have to wait very long in between. Besides, nobody enjoys being queen. Can I eat this? Clay asked, poking a rubbery red spear near his claw. If you must, said Mangrove. Clay scooped it into his mouth and started chewing it with a startled expression. Who disappeared after Slender? Glory asked. 2 dragons were out venom training, he said. One of them was having trouble aiming his venom properly, so the other took him away from the village to practice, and neither of them came back. Kinkaju was working on her venom too, Glory said. Is there a particular spot where Rainwings go to do that? Just gonna ignore that one. Okay, for the next 24 hours, you will do anything I want, but it can't involve money. I want you to stop doing that. There. Huh. Kinkaju was working on her venom too, Glory said. Is there a particular spot where Rainwings go to do that? Mangrove shook his head. Wherever the venom trainers choose. Very schmewy. I don't know. Clay mumbled around the fruits in his jaw. Yes, those fruits are, Mangrove said. It'll probably take you an hour to swallow it, and then several days to pick the bits out of your teeth. Ha! Starflight said, let's take a few of those back for Tsunami. Glory hid her smile, trying to look responsible and investigative. What else can you tell me about the missing dragons? She asked Mangrove. How many females, how many dragonettes, stuff like that. Mangrove counted on his claws. 7 females, 5 males, 4 dragonettes under the age of 7. Kinkaju is 3, so she'd be the youngest, and Tapir is the oldest. He's around 110. Do any of them have any enemies in the tribe? Glory asked. Anyone who'd wish them harm? Mangrove drew himself up, and bolts of orange flashed along the underside of his wings. Rainwings don't ever fight each other, he said. There's no such thing as enemies within the tribe. Haven't you noticed how peaceful and harmonious everyone is? Well, sure, Gloria said. Everyone but you. You seem a little grumpy. So apparently it's at least possible to be a grumpy Rainwing. He stared at her for a moment with his mouth open. Whoops, Glory thought. I hope I didn't just lose my best source of information. I mean, she added, there's nothing wrong with that. I am pretty grumpy most of the time. Most of the time, said Starflight. Clay mumbled agreed. Something's just deserve being grumpy at, Gloria said, frowning at her friends. Mangrove let out a bark of laughter. Alright, you're right. I guess I've been neglecting my son since Orchid went missing. He said, I used to be as cheerful as everyone else, but I'm worried about her. He rubbed one talon over his ruff and ears. Trust me, Orchid was perfection in every scale. No one could possibly want to hurt her. That's what I was afraid of, Glory thought. If another Rainwing wasn't behind the abductions, then it had to be something more mysterious and more dangerous. She couldn't help thinking of the dead Mudwing soldiers. But what was dangerous and strong enough to kill dragons, and why didn't anyone know it was out there? She glanced at Starflight, but he looked as puzzled as she was. I don't really want to talk about this anymore right now, said Mangrove, hunching at his shoulders. Then there's something else for us, Gloria said. Take me to the last place you saw Orchid. Mangrove bowed his head, shuffled the unsorted fruit into a lopsided pile, and spread his wings. Glory and the others followed him over the edge and rapidly down in giant loops toward the rainforest floor. It grew darker the further down they went, with the sunlight caught in the tree tops far above their heads. Glory watched the forest for signs they could use to follow the trail back. A toppled banana tree here, a spiderweb as large as one of her wings there. She got glimpses of other creatures in the underground. A large fairy ant eater had its nose buried in a hole rummaging around. A pair of long-legged lavender-colored birds paused in their stroll through the forest to shoot suspicious looks at the dragons whisking by. Gloria was surprised at how far they flew from the village. Isn't there fruit to gather closer to home? She called. Mangrove nodded and twisted his head around to glance back at her. Orchid and I like to search further out in case we find something new. The rainforest is full of surprises. We find a new kind of fruit at least once a year. He landed beside a giant fallen tree, undergrown with moss and vines. The undergrowth around his talons erupted as lizards and insects scurried busily away. Several bug-eyed sky-blue frogs peeked out from the branches of the fallen tree, flicking their tongues in and out just like dragons. Don't eat any of those, Mangrove warned Clay, seeing the Mudwing's gaze following the frogs. I don't know. Clay is mumbling stuff I can barely read. Like he's saying still chomping. Clay mumbled, pointing to his jaws, but the red fruit appeared to be stuck. Are they poisonous? Starflight asked. He poked the branches, but the frogs stared at him like, oh yeah? Bring it, you big lizard! No, Mangrove said, but they will give you the weirdest hallucinations about insects for about a week. Really not worth it. So, Orchid disappeared around here, Gloria asked. Do you know if King Kaiju was in the same area as well? Mangrove shrugged. Possibly. Bromelaid likes as much privacy as possible for training her more difficult pupils, so no one else will see her yelling at them. Gloria turned slowly, studying the forest around them. She could hear monkeys and birds chittering in the trees overhead. Wings flapped, twigs snapped, and claws rustled in the bushes. The air smelled like mangoes and wet leaves, as if there were a pond or waterfall nearby. And there was another scent too, a horrible one, underneath the others. Starflight, she said, what do you smell? She noticed that his nose seemed stronger than the other dragonets. He'd been the first to smell fire when the Skywings attacked the Seawing Summer Palace. Maybe it was a Nightwing skill. The black dragon inhaled slowly, then wrinkled his snout. Something decaying, he said, like a dying animal. I'm reading ahead, sorry! Mangrove blanked from horns to tail, turning a pale, sickly green. Don't panic, Gloria said quickly. I'm sure it's not her. It's not a dragon, right, Starflight? I'm not sure, he said, lifting his snout and sniffing again. She stamped on his foot, and he jumped with a yowl of pain. What? I can't tell. We'll go find it, Gloria said to Mangrove. You stay here. The Rainwing leaned against the fallen tree with a stricken expression. Couldn't you be a little reassuring? Gloria hissed at Starflight once they were out of earshot. Didn't you see his scales? Since when do you care about other dragons' feel? Since when do you care how other dragons feel? He asked. I care better than you do, she countered. Maybe if you had actual Nightwing powers, you could read minds, you'd notice, and could read minds, you'd notice what's going on around you. We're fighting, Clay ordered from behind them. Starflight folded his wings close to his body and glared at her. Well, Gloria demanded, can you follow the smell or not? He turned and stamped through the trees. Not very helpful, Clay, in a muffled voice, said to Glory sternly. Oh, your lectures are even cuter when I can't understand a word of them, she teased. He gave her shoulder a playful shove that nearly sent her through the nearest tree. When they caught up to Starflight, the Nightwing was standing next to a small waterfall, as high as Clay's shoulders, that splashed into a tiny pond. A stream no wider than a dragon's tail burbled at the top of the waterfall and away from the pond at the bottom. Thick brownish weeds choked the slimy surface of the pond, and a dead fish floated in the shallows. The top of the waterfall was flanked by a pair of tall dark trees, as fat around as the columns where Skywing prisoners were kept. Their trunks were so brown that they were nearly black, and their branches began far overhead, so they looked more like black pillars than trees. The closest one had a boulder leaning up against it that was twice the size of Morosir. On the other side of the waterfall, at the base, halfway into the pond, lay a furry, wheezing sloth, although it took Glory a moment to figure out what it was through the cloud of flies around it. The terrible smell was thick in the air. Said Glory's sloth, leaning around her neck to peer at the one on the ground. Gloria lifted her wing to block the gruesome sight from her new pet. What's wrong with it? Gloria asked. She inched toward the gasping sloth and realized that it had a serious bite on one leg. The wound was black and crawling with insects. It looked even worse than Web's injury. I'm not entirely sure, said Starflight. I mean, that bite shouldn't have been enough to kill it, but it's clearly dying. Could it be rainwing venom? Gloria asked. It looks about the size of a dragon bite. Her sloth started chirruping in a tragic, distressed way. She slid it off her neck and held it to her chest, facing away from the sloth on the ground. It was comfortable to feel its silky fur under her talons. Maybe, Starflight said doubtfully, but it looks like something slower acting to me. I guess it's been dying for several days. It does smell awful, Glory said. Poor thing. Clay crouched beside the sloth and lifted its leg carefully in his arms, expecting it as if he were hoping to find a way to fix it. The flies zipped angrily around his snout with loud buzzes of outrage. The dying sloth whimpered. Glory stepped around them and ventured up the slope to the pillar tree. Something about the boulder looked weird to her. It leaned almost too casually against the tree, as if it had been set there on purpose. She circled around to the other side and stopped staring. There was a hole in the boulder. More than a hole. A doorway. Ooh. End of chapter 8. Well, we'll hopefully not be interrupted by my older sister because she is at some friends in town. Don't worry, they're not out partying or anything, just chilling. Chapter 9. Glory wasn't quite sure how she knew this was not an ordinary hole in the rock. It looked like a hole, dark, with smooth stone edges, and just big enough for a full-grown dragon to pass through. And a moss curtain partly covered it in a way that didn't look quite accidental, though. But looking into it made her head spin, as if she were standing on the edge of a cliff in high winds. A faint sound whistled out of the hole, like a storm howling on this far side of the world. She could sense that this hole opened into a tunnel, and that tunnel went somewhere. It was impossible. She could walk all the way around the boulder, and there was nowhere for a tunnel to go. But she was sure of it. Starflight, she said as calmly as she could. What do you think of this? The Nightwing climbed up beside her, peering around the boulder, and jumped back when he saw the hole. A tremor shivered through his wings. I think it's horrible, he said. Can't you feel it? There's something horribly wrong with it. Like someone ripped a hole where there shouldn't be one. Don't go near it. I think I have to go into it, Glory said. You say that like you're not terrified, Starflight said, but I can see your scales turning the same pale green that mangroves just were. That means frightened, doesn't it? Don't try to read my scales, Glory snapped. She deliberately turned herself as black as he was. It's not a coincidence that this hole is here. Close to where at least one dragon disappeared. Maybe Orchid went through. Or maybe something came out and got her. Exactly, Starflight said. And she was never seen again. I'm pretty sure you just made my point for me. I promised I'd figure this out, Glory insisted. Not run and hide the moment we found a clue. Clay joined them, his wings drooping. His claws were finally free of the rubbery red fruit. There was nothing I could do for the sloth, he said. It was too far gone. Said Glory's sloth mournfully. Glory looked over Clay's shoulder at the tiny silvery grey figure flopped on the ground. Is it dead? She whispered. He nodded. I didn't want to leave it in pain like that. But you're not going to eat it? She tilted her head at him. Seems a little heartless, you know, he said. From the smell of it, it would probably make you sick, Starflight pointed out. I wonder what bit it, and whether it had any connection to this hole. Clay noticed the hole for the first time and flared his wings in surprise. Creepy, he yelled. Why is it so creepy? Glory wants us to go in there, Starflight said, rolling his eyes. Clay stalked up to the hole, sniffed it, and nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, we probably have to. No, we don't! Starflight cried. He curled his wings in toward his body. That's insane! There could be anything lurking in there. Including the answers to what is attacking the rainwings, Glory said. I'm going in. You two wait here. Clay pounced on her tail and sat on it. Ow! Glory yelped, trying to wriggle free. Get off, you giant lump. We might be doing this, but we're doing it sensibly, Clay said, as in tomorrow morning, when it's not almost dark, with backup and a rope and a plan. Tomorrow morning? Glory shoved him as hard as she could, but he didn't budge. I want answers now. Sounds like something Tsunami would say. Starflight said with a smug face that meant he knew she wouldn't like that comparison. Are you asking to get bitten? Glory growled. She stared at the boulder for a moment, thinking. Rushing in was the Tsunami thing to do. Glory could be sensible and patient instead. Alright, we can wait until tomorrow, but I'm staying right here to watch the soul. I don't think it's going anywhere, Starflight said patronizingly. Yeah, but maybe I'll see something go into it, Glory said, or come out. Starflight backed away from the hole in a hurry, his wings twitching nervously. I'll stay with you, Clay said. Starflight, bring the others back here in the morning, along with the longest, strongest vines you can find. I'll tell Mangrove will be here all night, so we can go home, Glory said. Try to be a little sympathetic if you can muster that. Like, please find out that we haven't found Orchid's dead body or anything. Alright, Starflight said, taking several more steps back. Don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. We'll try to contain ourselves, said Glory. He flew off into the trees, and as the shadows quickly swallowed him up, she noticed how dark it was already, especially down at the bottom of the forest. There was probably still a bit of sunlight up in the treetops. Ooh. But night was coming on fast. She realized she was a bit relieved that Clay had stopped her from going into the hole. She needed to be able to see in the dark like Tsunami or breathe fire like the others if she wanted to explore with no light. You can get off my tail now, she said to Clay. Let's find a place to hide, he suggested, standing up. Ooh, and maybe something to eat. Are you hungry? I'm hungry. Shocking, Glory said with a laugh. You know, there's still enough of that fruit left stuck to your teeth to make a whole other meal. I know, Clay said ruefully. He ran his tongue across the gummy red bit stuck between his white teeth. But I kinda wish I had a sheep or a cow instead. Sorry, Glory said. You probably won't find any of those here. She spread her wings and leaped onto the low branches of a fat gray tree. Vines covered in purple blossoms hung in low loops all over the tree, and another skinnier tree seemed to be growing up around the fat one, winding its trunk around and around it like a monkey's tail. They found a spot where the branches wove together thickly enough that they could both lie down without worrying about falling off. Through the vines, Glory could watch the hole in the boulder, although it, too, was rapidly disappearing into the growing shadows. Clay curled up close to her, but not touching her, which she appreciated. She wondered if other rainwings preferred not to be touched, or if that was a special thing of her own, picked up from living with 3 guardians who hit her almost as often as they looked at her. Let's be fair, she thought to herself, Webb's never hurt me himself. He just let the other 2 do whatever they wanted. So whenever Crystal or Dune felt frustrated, whenever the war was going badly, or someone screwed up in battle training, or there wasn't enough dinner for everyone, or they just remembered they had a Rainwing instead of a Skywing who was supposed to be in the prophecy, Glory was an easy target for an angry claw swipe or a vicious tail thump. Well, whatever, she thought. I'm free now, and Crystal and Dune are both dead. She reached up and stroked the sloth curled around her neck. It snuggled into her talon with a soft warble. How does it feel to be home? Clay whispered after a while. His shape was just a blacker outline of the dark beside her. In the dark beside her. Glory coiled her tail around the branch. She'd been avoiding thinking about this ever since visiting the hatchery. I did exactly what I told myself not to do. Got my hopes up so they could be smacked down. It doesn't really feel like I am home, she said slowly. Sunshine was great, and I like all the fruit, but the other dragons, I don't know, it's weird. I thought they'd be more like me, but they're nothing like me at all. Clay's wings rustled. I thought the same thing, he said. I thought the Guardians and the Scrolls must be wrong about Rain Wings, because you're never lazy or boring, but I guess you're just different from the others. Maybe I'm not really, Glory said. Maybe sometime would make me as lazy as they are. She remembered the Sky Kingdom again and the warm, hypnotizing feeling of sleeping in the sun all day long. I doubt that, Clay said. Not all Rain Wings are the same. You'd be different no matter where you grew up. I wonder, Glory thought. And even if I am, what good does that for me? What good does that do me? Not different enough to be part of those prophecy, she said. Still not a Skywing. We don't want a Skywing, Clay said firmly. Have you thought about what to do next? Like, if we all go look for Blaze, you don't want to stay here, do you? With your tribe? I have no idea, she thought. Shh! Glory said suddenly. Listen! They both fell silent. The rainforest was full of strange noises at night. Hidden birds hooted and squawked. The branches shook and rustled as if animals made of wind were rushing through them. A chorus of burps and gurgles came from the stream, which Glory guessed was a gathering of frogs. But now there was something else. Something stamping slowly on enormous feet. Stamp, slither, stamp, slither. The sloth had a stranglehold on Gloria's neck. She could feel it shaking. She was sure her own scales were turning green with fear, and she had to force all her energy into staying black. The something made a sniffing, snorting sound. Slither, slither. It was near the pond now. It stopped moving for a long moment. Glory wasn't sure whether she was imagining the great hulking shape she thought she could see, like shadows within shadows. Crunch, crunch, slurp, slurp, crunch. Gulping and smacking sounds followed and then abruptly stopped again. Stamp, slither, stamp, slither. And as suddenly as it had arrived, the creature vanished again. Glory strained her ears, but she couldn't hear any footsteps retreating into the forest, or the crackling of branches underfoot. Whatever it was had disappeared very close by, as if it had gone into its hole. Neither she nor Clay said anything for a long time. She wasn't sure enough that the slithering thing was gone to risk making any noise. She held as still as she could, even when her legs started to cramp. After what seemed like hours, she heard soft snoring coming from Clay's perch. She adjusted her wings and tried to sleep too, but every noise made her heart thump fiercely, and all she could do was swim in and out of drowsy haze for the rest of the night. It was a relief when the sun finally started to drift down through the leaves again. She sat up, rubbed her tired eyes, and glanced toward the pond and the boulder. The dead sloth was gone. All that remained were a few tufts of grey fur and some blood-spattered leaves soaking into the wet, wet ground. End of chapter 9. Ugh. Okay, that was... Ugh. Ooh, terrifying. I'm thinking that was what bit it. No, but that made no sense because like a sloth is very slow. So why would it bite the sloth to slow it down and then later come get it? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I would have, and if it's the animal I'm thinking of, it would have been dead within the day it had been bitten, not been alive days later. Ugh. Chapter 10. By the time the other dragonettes arrived, Gloria had wiped out any trace of green fear from her scales. She waited by the boulder, her wings speckled gray like the stone as they swooped down to join her. Sunny jumped up to hug Clay's neck as soon as she saw him. "How's Webs?" Clay asked. Tsunami snorted. "I don't think these healers have seen anything worse than a sprained wing or a stubbed claw before," she said. "They're doing a lot of peering at the scratch and muttering." "I'm sure he'll be fine," Sunny said. "The Rainwings are trying their best." She turned and caught Tsunami rolling her eyes behind her back. Sunny frowned. "They are." "Sunny, you think everyone always is trying their best," Tsunami pointed out. The little sandwing huffed a small snort of flame. "So? Everyone is? Why wouldn't they be?" "Yeah, yes, dear," Tsunami said, not unkindly. "Hello?" Oh, that was not. "Hello!" A voice interrupted. A pink comet streaked through the trees and thudded down beside the dragonettes. Glory jumped back and flared her ruff at Jambu as he bowed to all of them, grinning. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I heard what you were up to, and it sounded like fun," he said brightly. "So I took the day off to see if I could help." "Brother and sister, working as a team. Awesome, right?" He craned his neck to see the hole in the boulder beside her. "Oh, breathing. No wonder it feels so weird in this part of the forest. Most of the Rainwings avoid coming anywhere near this pond, but no one's ever reported a mystery hole before, I don't think. So, what's the plan?" "The plan is I go in," Glory said, "and everyone else waits here." Well, nobody liked that plan. Tsunami wanted to go first, Clay wanted to go together, Starflight was still in favor of not going in at all, even Jambu started whining about not wanting to be left behind. Glory folded her tail over her talons and waited for them to shut up. Sunny sidled up to her. "Maybe we could compromise," Sunny suggested quietly. "Maybe you could take someone with you. Someone with fire, maybe. Who could help you with the darkness in there." Unfortunately, that was a good point. Glory didn't love the idea of blundering into total darkness alone, and if she was right, it was a tunnel. There was no way to know how long it was or how lost she could get. "Like, maybe," Sunny started to say. "Alright!" Glory shouted, silencing the others. "Alright! Fine! Different plan! Clay and I go in first and see what's in there." Sunny looked disappointed. Glory wasn't sure why. She was doing exactly what the Sandwing had suggested. "What about me?" Tsunami said, bristling. "You held the other end of the vines." That wasn't Glory. "You hold the other end of the vines," Clay said. "If we yank on them 3 times, it means we're in trouble, so either pull us out or, if you can't, come in and get us." Glory didn't love the idea of having a vine tied around her shoulders, but she was outvoted. As Starflight tightened the knots, she untangled her sloth and passed it to Sunny. "Here," she said, "watch Silver for me while I'm gone." Watch Silver for me while I'm gone? Aww, Sunny said, brightening. Pretty name. Glory hadn't meant to say it out loud. She didn't want the others to notice that she was starting to like the weird little mammal. Well, you can call it whatever you want, she said. Urgh. The sloth disagreed, but it flopped across Sunny's back with a blissful expression. It must like the sandwing warmth of his scales, Glory realized. What if it doesn't want to come back to me? She shook her wings. Then it'll be Sunny's problem, I guess. Let's go catch a monster, she said to Clay. Remember, 3 tucks, Clay said to Tsunami. He squared his shoulders and marched up to the boulder alongside Glory. She knew he must be remembering the awful noises and dark creature from the night before too. She was glad he'd followed her lead of not telling the others about it. Starflight didn't need any other reason to try to stop them from going into the hole. Let me go first, Clay whispered, so I can light the way. Gloria nodded reluctantly, and he stepped forward into the darkness. Sorry, I'm sketching. She followed right behind, nearly stepping on his tail. He breathed out a plume of fire, and they saw a stone tunnel stretching ahead of them. They turned abruptly to the right. That way. That way. Or is it? I mean, it's that way on the camera. Like what you see. I forget about it. That's impossible, Clay whispered. This tunnel's much longer than the boulder, and it's not going down into the ground. Some kind of magic? Glory guessed maybe animus magic? Glory couldn't think of anything else that could have made a tunnel like this, unless they were mystery creatures with powers similar to animus dragons. When she was 4 years old, she'd gone through a phase of reading all the animus dragon stories and hoping she was one so she could enchant June's dinner to eat him. Of course, no powers had ever manifested, and it was probably lucky they hadn't, given what they'd learned about that kind of magic from Tsunami's sister Anemone in the Kingdom of the Sea. And one talent, their ability to manipulate and enchant any physical object, Glory thought. On the other hand, say goodbye to yourself. She squeezed past Clay and set off down the tunnel. He stayed close enough to brush her wings with his snout. I thought the scroll said there hasn't been an animus dragon in generations, Clay said, scratching his head, but between Queen Coral's daughters and this being here, I guess I remembered wrong. No, that is what the scroll said, but remember that was in the histories written by Nightwings. Glory said, Nightwings can't stand animus dragons because animus power is much cooler than what they can do, and Nightwings would rather be the only magically powerful dragons out there, so maybe they lied. Oh, they didn't know that it runs in the Searing royal family, Clay said, or perhaps any dragon who do have animus powers make sure to keep it hidden so they won't be forced to use it, like for the war or something. He breathed out another spread of fire, and they saw it turn a few steps ahead of them. This tunnel might not be an animus thing either, Glory said. Maybe there's some other kind of creature who can do this type of magic. Clay didn't answer, but she felt the shiver that ran through his wings. At the turn, Glory leaned forward to glance around the corner. Even before Clay could use his fire, she saw light. Enough light to realize the tunnel turned again to the left, and that was where the light was coming from. They crept to the next corner and peered around it. Another long tunnel stretched ahead of them, and at the end of it waited an outline of bright sunlight, much too bright for the floor of the rainforest. Clay and Glory exchanged glances. Did we miss something? She whispered. I thought this tunnel would be much longer. Also, that it would have, a monster in it. It must have come from out there, Clay said, nodding at the circle of sunlight. They slid along the tunnel, keeping an eye out for hidden entrances, but as far as Gloria could tell, there were none. There were only the long, smooth stone walls leading to that brightness, which got more and more blinding the closer they came. She paused at the doorway, blinking, and realized that sand was piled up outside as high as her shoulders, nearly blocking the exit. She dug into it, shoving sand aside until there was a hole big enough to crawl through, then poked her head out. The sun beat down on her scales, but not in the same way it did in the rainforest, treetops, or in the claws of the cloud mountains. Here the heat was dry as ancient bones, sucking all the moisture out of her scales, and there was no breeze that she could feel. Grains of sand trickled between her talons. As her eyes adjusted, she realized that the sand stretched endless and pale to the horizon ahead of her. There were no trees. The sky was aggressively blue and cloudless. A sickly stench of death hung faintly in the air. There was nothing but desert as far as the eye could see. Clay squeezed himself up beside her and stuck his nose out into the blazing heat. Youch! He said. Gloria's ears twitched. Out in the sky, a pair of tiny dark shades appeared, approaching fast. Gloria's ears... Hi! Sorry. I accidentally read the same thing again. Hide! Gloria ordered, shoving Clay back into the tunnel. Throwing off the vine rope, she wriggled out of the hole. She stretched her talons across the sand and focused on her tails, watching them blur quickly into the pale brown gold-white colors. Camouflaged, she stared up at the approaching dragons. There were two sandwings swooping lower as they got closer. For an uneasy moment, Gloria thought they must have seen her, but they whooshed past without even glancing down, and she realized they were aiming at something beyond and behind her. Moving cautiously, Gloria crept out another few steps and turned around. On this side, the hole was hidden in a dune surrounded by a semicircle of green dull cacti. Each cacti was half as tall as a full-grown dragon, with tiny horns as sharp as fangs. A few dusty white flowers bloomed between the prickles. Beyond the cactus sentries, the dunes slanted down to an enormous structure in the distance. The two sandwings spiraled into it, vanishing behind the thick sandstone walls. There were no windows that Gloria could see. There was only the solid block shape, like a monstrous brick dropped on the sand. Wait, she thought. There was something dotting the top of the walls. Small dark shapes at regular intervals, fluttering now and then in the very slight breath of wind. She squinted, trying to process what she could see. It looked like it couldn't be. She closed her eyes abruptly and clutched her stomach. It was. She remembered the scroll now where she'd read a description of this place. The dark shapes were dragon heads, the heads of dragons who had been executed and mounted where everyone could see them, to remind others of the dangers of disobedience. According to the scroll, you could smell them for miles in all directions. Gloria knew where she was now. She was standing in the Kingdom of Sand, within sight of Bern's stronghold. End of chapter 10 and end of part 1. We're moving on to part 2, which is called Sand, Ice, and Smoke. Dang! They ended up in the Kingdom of the Sand from the rainforest. Through that hole in the boulder. Let me look at a map. That's like a map of Pyria. Just like the rainforest is here. Rainforest is here. And Burn's stronghold is all the way over here. So like they went this distance. This is a long distance, by the way. This is a long distance. They went in a short amount of time. So it must be some kind of magic, obviously. Oh dear. Chapter... Yeah, we're going to take 5 more chapters to make up for no stream Wednesday. Sorry about that again. So, another 2 hours. We're gonna be here for another 2 hours. Yeah. Chapter 11. Burn's stronghold had once been the original Sandwing Palace. That was where all the trouble had started. Glory flattened herself against the sand and stared at it, remembering the history Webs had taught them. 18 years ago, Queen Oasis had ruled the Sandwings from there. Her 3 daughters, Burn, Blister, and Blaze, had been minor dragons, footnotes in the scrolls of the time. Oasis was old, fierce, and canny, with a vast and impressive treasury. No one expected her to be challenged for many years yet. And certainly no one would ever have expected a puny treasure-hunting scavenger to kill her. But that was exactly what had happened. Now the treasure was gone, and the 3 sisters had drawn all the other tribes into their struggle for power. 18 years of bloodshed. Gloria flicked her tail, concentrating on keeping her scales the color of sand. Burn had driven out the other 2 and kept the palace for herself. Or, depending on which scroll you read, Blister and Blaze had escaped before she could kill either of them. Sorry. They'd gone in search of allies, knowing that neither one could beat Burn on her own. This wasn't how the palace had looked during the reign of Queen Oasis. Burn had added the thick walls, and, of course, the dragon heads on top of them. Glory wondered if Burn was down there in her stronghold right now, or if she was in the Sky Kingdom trying to hold on to her alliances after what Glory had done to Queen Scarlet. The real questions were, did she know about this passageway? And did she have anything to do with the missing Rainwings? Glory! Clay hissed from the dark hole in the dune. What's going on? Gloria slid back down the hill to face him. We're in the Kingdom of Sand, she said. I have no idea how or why. What's that over there? Clay asked, pointing north. Glory turned and saw a wing of dragons flying high in the sky. Their scales sparkled in the sunlight, so that even from here she could guess that they were ice wings, white and pale blue as diamonds. From their angle of flight, they seemed to be returning from the Sky Kingdom to their own home on the frozen peninsula. On the frozen peninsula to the north. Ice wings, Glory said. We're not too far from the Ice Kingdom here. That was hard to imagine in the blistering heat, but she remembered it from the map on the wall of their underground cave. Oh, Clay said brightly. We could go find Blaze. Hooray, said Glory. She knew the others were hoping that Blaze would be a good candidate for Queen, so they could choose her instead of Burn and Blister. But Glory's hopes weren't very high, based on what she'd read about Blaze. Could Blaze or the Ice Wings have anything to do with this passageway to the rainforest? But what had they heard in the middle of the night, and where had it gone? Alright, let's go tell the others, she said. But that's completely impossible, Starflight said, for the millionth time. The Kingdom of Sand is literally half a world away on the other side of the mountains for Moon's sake. You couldn't have walked there down a tunnel in the rainforest. Go look for yourself, Glory snapped. It's for real. Someone built a secret passageway between here and the Sandwing territory. She dipped her tail in the stream, glad to be back in the coolness of the rainforest. Her scales felt as if she'd run through a fire. Silver sat on one of Glory's talons, dipped her paws in the water and patted it against Glory's leg. But why? Tsunami said, what's the point? That Glory couldn't answer. So they could sneak through and eat a sloth here and there? That made no sense, and what made even less sense was kidnapping Rainwings. Do you think Sandwings are coming through here to attack the Mudwings? Sunny asked hesitantly. Maybe it was Sandwing who killed those soldiers. Seems like a roundabout way to do things, Tsunami said. If the Sandwings have an animus, they could create a passageway straight into Mudwing territory as something more useful. I still think this passage has something to do with the missing Rainwings, Glory said, but I don't understand what. If they wandered into it by accident, they'd just come back the way they did. If they were taken, what would Sandwings or Icewings want with a few Rainwings? Woohoo! Burn likes collecting things, Starflight remembered. But you saw her face when Queen Scarlet was showing me off in the Sky Kingdom, Glory said. Burn looked like she'd never seen a Rainwing before, and she doesn't like pretty things. She likes horrible, weird things. You're all so lucky you didn't see the creepy gift Queen Scarlet got for her when she came to visit. It was a dead stuffed crocodile with bat wings sewn onto its back, so it looked sort of like a dragon. She shuddered. Totally hideous, but Burn loved it. And you don't know anything about this passage? Tsunami asked to Jambu. Glory's brother lifted his brightly colored wings, looking baffled. I know the Rainwings didn't put it there, he said. Why would we want a way out of the rainforest? Life is perfect here. Unless you make the mistake of going missing, and then good luck because no one's going to look for you, Glory pointed out. Well, maybe. And Jambu said, as if that were a perfectly normal problem for a dragon tribe to have, but it's great for the rest of us. Glory wondered what color his scales would turn if she bit him. Do you even have an animus dragon? Starflight asked. What's that? Jambu answered. Never mind, Glory said. Do Sandwings ever visit you, or have you ever seen one in the forest? Jambu shook his head. Don't think so. I don't even know what a Sandwing looks like, he said. Me? Sunny said. Sort of. But you've seen them in scrolls, right? Starflight said. Scrolls, Jambu said. Those are... Starflight looked as if someone had just asked him whether breathing was really necessary. You don't have any scrolls? He gaped. Don't you read? Do you really not read? Not anything? Jambu shrugged apologetically. I'm not sure what you're talking about, he said. Starflight had to sit down and fold his wings over his head for a minute. Glory coiled her tail as Clay described Sandwings for Jambu. Every new thing she learned about Rainwings made them sound worse. A tribe without scrolls, who didn't care what was beyond their own borders. Why weren't they at least curious about the rest of the world? It made her want to shake all of them. Nope, that doesn't sound familiar, Jambu said. I'm pretty sure the only other tribe visitors we've ever had look like him. He pointed at Clay. And they're usually lost and want to get out of the rainforest as fast as possible. Maybe we should destroy it, Sunny said unexpectedly. They all turned to look at her. She shuffled her talons on the damp forest floor. The passageway, I mean. It can't be here for anything good, right? I know I don't like the idea that burn could pop out of there any minute, and it's making ringwings disappear. Well, who cares why? Let's just smash the boulder or stuff the tunnel full of trees and set them on fire or something. Glory blinked. It did sort of make sense. There was definitely something not right about this hole. Someone had ripped through normal space. Maybe destroying it would solve the problem. But Glory wanted to know the answer too. There had to be a why. Tsunami spoke first. I don't think that'll work. If there's someone or something behind this, then wrecking their secret passage won't stop them. At least this way we have an advantage because we know about it. And what if the missing rainwings are alive on the other side? Clay said. What if there's a chance to save them? Oh, Sunny said. That's true. I'm not going into Burn's palace. Starflight said immediately. No way. A monkey in the trees overhead dropped a nut, and Starflight jumped nervously aside as it tumbled down beside him. I will if I have to, Glory said. She should have been the one to think about saving the missing rainwings. If they were still alive, of course she had to help bring them home, even if she did think the whole tribe was empty-headed. But we don't know for sure that Burn is involved. Starflight pointed out. It could certainly be the Ice Wings instead. We need to spend a lot more time gathering information, maybe spying on the stronghold and on the Ice Kingdom, charting their movements, studying the tunnel. Studying the tunnel. Suddenly, something much larger than a nut thudded down off the tree beside Starflight. The Nightwing yelped and leaped out of the way as a bright green dragon galloped past him and dashed into the hole in the boulder. Hey! Glory shouted. That was Mangrove! Jambu cried. What is he doing? He's going to look for our kid. Glory tucked Silver into the nearest tree. Wait here, she ordered the sloth. She folded her wings and ran into the tunnel after Mangrove. Mangrove! She called as his tail whizzed around the corner. Come back! We're making a plan! Don't be a freaking dragon! She added under her breath. Even the one rainwing she liked was a Nimrod. She shot around the last corner just in time to see him disappear out into the bright desert sunshine. By the time she burst out behind him, her eyes adjusted to the light. He was a green claw mark in the sky, flying away as fast as he could. A moment later, his scales shifted color and he vanished against the blue. Glory flapped her wings in frustration and sat down with a sigh. One by one, her friends emerged from the tunnel. Oh, 3 moons, Tsunami said as the heat hit her scales. It's horrible here. Sunny stretched her wings wide and tilted her face up to the sun. Well, she whispered. Starflight blinked and gazed around. You're right, he said to Glory. I can't believe it. This really is the Kingdom of Sand. Jambu tumbled out behind them. Where's Mangrove? He asked. Did he head for Burn's stronghold? Starflight guessed, shading his eyes to look in the direction of the faraway palace. Glory shook her head and pointed north. Nope, she said. I don't think he even noticed it. Looks like we're off to the Ice Kingdom. End of chapter 11. Yeah, we're about to we have 4 more chapters to go, and I'm out of water. So, tiny hydration break from stock up on that sweet old H2O. Okay, folks? And I will be back in a minute. It's the water. Feels. Well, we got 4 more chapters. Let's see how long these are. At least this one. Seven and a half. It's not very long. At least this chapter. Chapter 12. This isn't safe at all, Starflight called. This is the opposite of safe. We might as well just hand ourselves over to Queen Glacier. I'm right next to you, Glory said, and grinned when Starflight lost a beat and had to flap harder to keep up. Not only was it funny, but it was also nice to know that her camouflage was working as well. Was working so well. Her brother certainly seemed to have no problem. She glanced around at the endless empty blue that surrounded them as they flew north. Jambu, she said. Still here, answered a path of sky from off to her left. You really don't have to come with us, she said again. The semicircle of cacti was now half a day's flight behind them, but Jambu could still make it back before dark. Nah, he said. This is better than suntime. I feel like I've been rolled in sunlight and stuffed with bananas. I bet the rest of the tribe would love to come through that tunnel and have their sunshine here on the sand. Gloria pictured 100 rain wings suddenly sprawled in the desert, soaring away only a few miles from Bryn's stronghold. She shuddered. That is a really, really terrible plan, she said. It's not safe here for basically any dragon. That's what I'm trying to say, Starflight yelped from her other side. In rain wings, said Jambu cheerfully. Nobody cares what we do. The world is still at war, Glory said, and some of the queens are really not to be trusted. I don't know what they'd do with you, but it wouldn't be friendly. Why not? Asked Jambu. Because you're so dopey, you're just asking for it. Because most dragons are naturally unfriendly, she said. Biting and fighting is what we're built for. Really? Said Jambu. We're not. There was a ripple in the air as he flicked his tail. Well, you should be, said Glory. One day some other tribe might come to you, and you'll have to be able to defend yourselves. Promise me you'll be careful when we get to the Ice Wings. Don't let them know what you are. All right, he said. I think it's pretty cute, my little getting all worried about me over nothing. Glory rolled her eyes. Why did she care? If her tribe wanted to do idiotic things, did it really affect her? Well, it did if she planned to stay in the rainforest. But was that her plan? The Rainwings were far from the family she'd hoped for. But if she didn't stay with the Rainwings, where would she go? With the other dragonettes to fulfill a prophecy she wasn't supposed to... With the other dragonettes to fulfill a prophecy she wasn't supposed to be in? What about after the prophecy was fulfilled? Clay had brothers and sisters in the Mudwings. Tsunami had loved the Kingdom of Sea. Apart from her crazy mother, maybe she'd still go back and challenge her for the throne one day. The Nightwings, of course, would welcome Starflight with open wings anytime. Glory glanced over at Sunny. The little sandwing flew in a tired, flappy way, but her jaw was set and determined. Would she ever fit in somewhere? She was such an odd-looking sandwing, without the poison-tipped tail all the rest of her tribe had. Would anyone want her if the dragonettes did fulfill the prophecy and end the war? Well, presumably whichever queen they chose for the Sandwings would be pretty grateful. Surely she'd take Sunny in. And besides, everyone liked Sunny. Glory shook her head and stretched her talons. She was getting way ahead of herself. First we find Mangrove and get him home, Then I find them missing rain wings and whoever or whatever is taking or killing them. Then the great dragonets of destiny figure out how to stop the war. Maybe I tag along for that. And then we'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind stopping for a nap, though, Jambu's voice said out of the blue. We don't have time for that. We won't have time for that, Glory said. Then again, Mangrove was a rainwing, so maybe he would stop mid-idiotically foolish rescue for a nap. But they couldn't count on it. Also, Jambu, it's not going to be like this the whole way. It's going to get really cold by tonight, and tomorrow we'll be in the Ice Kingdom, where it will be seriously freezing. I'm sure it will be okay, Jambu said breezily. It was already colder than it had been back at the tunnel entrance, and the desert sand below had changed to rocky, treeless hills, gradually sloping up as they flew farther north. Glory saw Sunny casting a wishful glance back at the desert behind them. Starflight was right. This wasn't particularly safe. Glory and Jambu were camouflaged, but there wasn't much of a way to explain a mudwing, a seawing, a nightwing, and a sandwing all flying together, especially right into Icewing territory. They'd agreed to stop telling everyone they were the Dragonets of the Prophecy, but arriving like this, they might as well be carrying "Here we are, please imprison us!" banners. Glory wished again that her friends had just let her come on her own. She was sure she could retrieve Mangrove by herself. They were lucky to avoid any Icewing patrols. Sunny heard one coming, which gave them time to hide down in the rocky landscape. And they landed sometime after dark on ground that crunched ominously under Glory's claws. Is this dirt? Is this snow? Clay asked, poking the dirt. No, Starflight said in his know-it-all voice. It's just frozen dirt. We're going to be really cold tonight. They'd chosen a spot at the base of a short cliff, which would help block the wind, but Glory could already feel the cold seeping up from the ground through her claws and under scales. And we shouldn't use fire, Tsunami said bossily. We can't risk being seen. Dips, I get to sleep next to Sunny, said Clay. He grinned at her and she beamed back. Her warm scales would be the only source of heat they had. Even Glory would have to put up with close contact if she wanted to get through the night without freezing. Glory knew Clay was joking. He was more likely to use his own body as a shield to keep the wind away from the rest of them, but she glanced over at Starflight and caught the crestfallen look on his face. Oh, Starflight, maybe you should actually do something with that crush of yours. What? 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 Starflight had us? What? He'd never admitted it out loud, but Glory was pretty sure he'd been hopelessly in love with Sunny his whole life. Oh my gosh! Juicy. Nope. No. Tea. She was also pretty sure Sunny had no idea, and that she might never find out at this rate. Not my problem, Glory reminded herself, but as they huddled up to sleep, she edged around so Starflight ended up curled next to Sunny's wings, with Clay behind both of them. She curled herself as tightly as she could and found a spot along Clay's tail. Jambu immediately lay down practically on top of her. Oof! Glory whispered. A little more personal space, please. I don't know what that is, Jambu whispered back, but I'm really freaking cold, aren't you? Glory sighed. She was, and Jambu was warm, and he was her brother. She curled up for a second night in a roof of uncomfortable sleep. in a row of uncomfortable sleep. Glory woke up shortly before dawn. The sun was a thin pale line of light on the horizon, and the dark purple sky was glittered with stars. She could see her breath in the air, trails of smoke as if she could breathe fire like the others. She wheeled out from under Jambu, who slept with his mouth open and his wings flopped wide. At least he wasn't pink today. She found it a little easier to take him seriously when he was and brown colors, when he was the grey and brown colors of the rocks below them. She glanced down at her scales to make sure they matched the landscape as well. She liked how there was even a subtle sparkle to them, just like the frost that covered the ground. Tsunami shifted in her sleep, growling softly. Glory realized that Starflight was already awake. Ew. He blinked at her over Sunny's back, looking exhausted. She flicked her tail and signaled that he should go back to sleep. Then she spread her wings and hopped up to the top of the cliff to see what the land ahead looked like. A lot like the land they'd left behind, and the land they were on, apparently. Except, was that snow in the distance? Glory gave her scales a moment to shift, and then she lifted into the sky. They hadn't been able to see it in the dark of the night before, but there was definitely snow on the taller hills ahead of them, and more snow beyond that. Glory shivered. It would get colder from here, and it was already close to unbearable. This had to be tough on Sunny and Clay as well. Maybe the others could stay here while she went on ahead. In fact, maybe she should go ahead right now, without them, so no one else would be at risk. Except she knew perfectly well her idiot friends would follow her and just get in worse trouble without her there to help. If she wanted to go on without them, she'd have to convince them to be smart, listen to her, and stay behind. There was something large up ahead in the snow-covered hills. Oh, crap. There was something large up ahead in the snow-covered hills. Some kind of building. It couldn't be Glacier's palace, though. Gloria knew that was far to the north, on the coldest tip of the peninsula. Where no other dragons would ever want to go. This building was almost too far south for ice wings. Glory flew a bit closer and saw smoke rising from a few of its chimneys. Smoke means fire, she thought, which means not ice wings. She circled in the air and studied a bit more. It had to be Blaze and her sand wings. Gloria had been wondering how they survived in the Ice Kingdom. Apparently the answer was by not going very far into it. Suddenly, a movement below caught her eye. She froze, hovering in the air and hoping her camouflage was perfect. There was a dragon among the rocks. Not far from where her friends were sleeping, but not close enough to see them either. He was stamping his feet and slapping his wings together as if he were trying to warm up. Nightcrawler? Gloria thought hopefully, gliding a bit closer. He wasn't camouflaged exactly, but he was black like a nightwing. Maybe he thought that would hide him well enough. And then the dragon below let out a small plume of fire, heating the ground below him before curling up on it. So it wasn't a rainwing, it was an actual nightwing on his own in Icewing territory. Well, that can't be good news. End of chapter 12. Oh boy, what's going to happen next? I'm gonna check how many chapters are in each. How many chapters are in each page? How many pages there are in each chapter from now on? So 7. Damn. These chapters get shorter. That's okay. Why was there... Chapter 13. Why was there a Nightwing here of all places? Glory glided quietly away and landed softly out of his sight. Sorry. Her curiosity was too strong to resist, so she needed a disguise. The only logical dragons that should be wandering around here were Icewings, maybe some of their Sandwing allies. She closed her eyes and remembered the Icewing who had fought Clay in the arena, Fjord. The first dragon she'd killed with her venom. She had no other choice. He'd been moments away from killing Clay. Plus, she had no idea what her venom would do. She'd just known instinctively that she could do something, that she had to do something, that she had a weapon she'd never known about. Satellite thought that perhaps she could have used her venom under the mountain anyway. He said it might have been activated by finally exposing her scales to full sunlight, the way Clay's fireproof abilities had come to full strength once he'd encountered mud for the first time. Clay couldn't help wonder how different life might have been. Glory couldn't help but wonder how different life might have been if she could have threatened the Guardians the way they threatened her. Focus, Fjord. His pale blue scales, the color of sky-filled snow. His darker blue eyes. She felt the changes shimmer across her scales. The hardest part was the extra horns Icewings had around their heads. She concentrated on making her ruff look like it was made of icicles and hoped that would do. She also couldn't make her claws rigid like Icewing claws, and her tail wasn't as whip-thin at the end as an Icewing's would be. Missing up a lot of words here. Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe there's no way. Maybe there's no way I'll get away with it. But it was still pretty dark out, and she really wanted to know what a Nightwing was doing out here. Well, she thought ruefully, if he figures me out, I guess I'll just kill him. Somehow, it didn't sound as funny as she'd hoped. She leaped into the air and flew back to the spot where she'd seen the strange dragon. For a moment, she was afraid she'd lost him, but she realized that he was lying down, his black scales half hidden in the long shadows. Confidence, she told herself. It's all about attitude. Hey! She barked, landing with a thump beside him. Who are you, and what are you doing in our territory? The Nightwing leaped up in surprise and stared at her. He was a lot younger and smaller than Borussia, weary and graceful in his movements even when he was startled. The silver scales sparkling under his wings caught the morning light like trapped stars. I'm reading ahead again. Great moons! Where did you come from? He asked. He looked up at the sky with a puzzled expression. Where do you think? She said. I'm asking the questions here. What are you doing in the Ice Kingdom? Technically, this isn't the Ice Kingdom yet, he said. Or didn't you know that? Yes! Gimme! Gimme! Thank you. Bye-bye. She made it. It's a lot bigger than this one. The difference. I can play with this now. It isn't, she thought. The map she'd memorized didn't exactly have borders drawn on it. Not that those would have helped her out here anyway. You're close enough, she growled. Explain yourself. She wished she had a spear or something she could poke at him. It will be Ice Kingdom one day, territory one day, said the Nightwing. If Blaze wins the war, that is. She promised Queen Glacier all the land you can see from here to the southern horizon, basically where the desert starts. He pointed, but Gloria stopped herself from looking and kept her eyes at him. The Nightwing smiled. I suppose you know all that, he said, but it's interesting, isn't it? That's a lot of land Blaze is willing to hand over, but not exactly useful land to either tribe, so what would Queen Glacier want with it? Do you think there's treasure on these rocks? What? That would be my guess. A diamond mine, perhaps. Maybe you know. Maybe all Icewings know and are wisely keeping it a secret from Blaze and her Sandwings. He gave her a wry, clever look, as if he'd just opened up her mind and spread it out on the rocks for them to admire. A horrible sinking feeling shot through Glory. She'd forgotten that Nightwings could read minds. Some Nightwings, she reminded herself. Certainly not Starlight. And she thought not Morosia, judging from his lack of reaction to other thoughts she'd had about him. Maybe this dragon was one who could see the future instead. Still, she forced every thought out of her mind except, what are you doing here? Answer my question, Nightwing, she said, or I'll take you to Queen Glacier and you can explain yourself to her. That wouldn't be a good idea, he said. You really don't want the rest of my tribe to come looking for me. And you really don't want to sit in a dungeon made of ice until they show up. Which would most likely be sometime after you froze to death, she pointed out. So tell me what you're doing here and perhaps I'll let you go. Win-win. He tilted his head, looking amused. All right, he said after a moment. I'm waiting for someone. Well, a few someones. Who? She asked. I can't tell you that, he said. Nightwing business, I'm afraid. I'm on an assignment. I didn't know Nightwings had business, Glory said. I thought you just sulked around in your secret location, congratulating one another on knowing everything and doing nothing. The Nightwing started laughing. Nobody talks to us like that, he said. Where's your sense of awe, your terror of our powers? He spread his wings majestically, but his eyes were teasing. If your powers were this impressive, you'd do something to stop this war, she said. Also, I'm the one with the freaking death breath here. She nearly slipped and said venom, but either way, it was true. Nightwing powers weren't spectacular when it came to actual battle. Starlights were downright pathetic. Maybe we'll help stop the war someday, he said. Maybe we just haven't picked a side yet. Like the Dragonettes of the Destiny. Glory kept her face calm and bored. Oh, that old thing, she said. I don't believe in prophecies. Sorry, I know they're Nightwing's specialty, but seriously, if you can actually see the future, why be all cryptic and vague about it? Why not just give us a prophecy that's like, oh, by the way, Blaze is going to win the war, so give her the crown now and don't even bother trying to fight about it. Skip all the deaths and bloodshed and leave a bunch of poor Dragonettes out of it. The Nightwing laughed again. You feel sorry for the Dragonettes, he said. That's interesting. I've seen a lot of that around Pyria, actually. Everyone expects so much of them, but they also think it's a heavy burden for 5 young Dragonettes. I wonder if the Dragonettes would be surprised by all the sympathy for them. He looked thoughtful for a moment, then yawned. You haven't seen any sign of them here, have you? Rumor has it they were headed for the Icewing Kingdom next. Really? Glory said impassively. Why? To meet Blaze, I suppose, he said. So, are they here? In Queen Glacier's dungeon already, perhaps? Nope, Glory said. No sign of them, not at all. She thought of snowstorms and sheets of ice blocking the way to all of her other thoughts. He studied her for a moment. Right, he said. Well, they could have gotten here that fast. Eh, They couldn't have gotten here that fast anyway. It's a long way from the kingdom of the sea. How do you know where they were? Glory asked. Oh wait, I forgot. Nightwings are all knowing, all seeing, and all brilliant, right? Don't forget all wonderful and all handsome, he said. She started to cover her laugh. How could anyone know that? And you all stay hidden like turtles, she said. Seriously, come hang with other dragons in the real world sometime. Is that an invitation? He asked. I probably have a day or two before my work can begin. I wouldn't mind seeing the inside of an Icewing Tavern if you'll be there. Glory felt a shiver of danger slip into her along her spine. So, let me get this straight, she said. You're telling me nothing about why you're here, but you expect me to bring you into our kingdom and buy you a drink. Nightwings really do think highly of themselves, don't they? What if I bought you that drink? He offered. Oh, then I'm sure Queen Glacier would understand. No problem, Gloria said. She loves strange dragons in the territory. It's a very favorite thing. The Nightwing smiled a little wistfully. All right, he said. Never mind. But maybe you could come back and see me sometime. I'll be here for a few more days at least. Probably. And it's pretty boring just sitting here. Waiting for your mysterious someones, Glory said. Which you're not going to tell me anything about more. He spread his wings. Sorry, I wish I could. I bet my job would impress you. I'm not easily impressed, Glory said, and was surprised when he laughed again. Well, good luck with your assignment, I suppose. Sorry. I really have a bad posture. He spread his wings. Wait, sorry. Too far back. Well, good luck with your assignment, I suppose. What's your name? He asked as she took a step back. Sorry, I can't tell you that, she said mockingly. Icewing business. Who knew sarcasm could grow in a place this cold? He said with a smile. Will you tell me your name if I tell you mine? Nope, she said. Frankly, I'm not that interested. She turned her back and spread her wings. I'll tell you anyway, he said as she lifted into the sky. If you'll come see me again. Will you? Maybe, she called back. I'm pretty busy. My name, he called. She slowed down to listen but didn't look back. My name is Deathbringer. Oh, what a name. I don't like a name like that. Deathbringer. What a name. What kind of name is that? Who would name their dragonet Deathbringer? Like, seriously. What? Who would name their kid Deathbringer? Then again, Nightwings seem to have really weird names, like Morrowseer, Fate Speaker. Was that Fate Speaker, the dragonet in the beginning? In the prologue was called? I don't remember, but she had a pretty weird name too. Weird. I mean, at least Starflight is kind of normal. Like, normal in that sense that it doesn't sound totally weird. Like, Deathbringer. Like, it doesn't sound totally weird to name your kid. Like, Deathbringer. Serious? Then again, Starflight wasn't named by Nightwings, so that kind of makes sense. Anywho, chapter 14, 2 chapters to go. Order 9 pages. 9 pages. Chapter 14. Deathbringer. Waiting for someone. A few someones. You haven't seen any sign of the dragonettes, have you? Glory's head was spinning as she flew away. Was the Nightwing here waiting for them? Deathbringer. Seriously? The only dragon she knew of who the Nightwings wanted dead was her. As soon as Morosia had laid eyes on her under the mountain, he decided she was going to mess up the prophecy. So he'd ordered the Guardians to kill her, which was why she and the others had escaped. Had he sent Deathbringer to finish the job? Why waste all that energy hunting her down? But Deathbringer had sounded as if he was waiting for more than just her. She wondered if that meant the other dragonettes were in danger too. Oh, it was just my older brother, going into his room. Surely the Nightwings wouldn't kill all of any of them. That had to mess up the prophecy much more dramatically than Glory could. She landed next to her friends and nearly gave Starflight a heart attack. Ice Wing! He yelped, falling over backward. Tsunami leaped to her feet, teeth bared. Look out! It's... Oh... Starflight took a deep breath as Glory's scales shifted back to brown and grey. Glory, why would you do that to me? Because it's hilarious, she said. Also, shh. She thought they were far enough away from Deathbringer, but she wasn't completely sure how far sound would carry in the cold, crisp air. You look very sparkly, Sunny said sleepily. I nearly clobbered you with my tail, Tsunami said in a severe voice. And I nearly bit off your snout when you were snoring last night, Glory said. So I guess we're both models of self-restraint. Jambu, wake up, she poked her brother, who was the only one who'd slept through Starflight's alarm. Too cold, he mumbled, flapping one wing over his head. Too bad, she said, and poked him again. Besides, if you get up and move, you'll feel warmer. More sleeping, he insisted, folding the other wing over his head as well. Glory sighed and left him alone. Starflight, she asked, do you have any idea how literal a Nightwing's name is? Like, does it always signal something about what they do? The other dragonets started getting up and stretching. Starflight scratched his head. Well, there's Morosia, he said. He can see the future and deliver prophecies, so that's seeing the morrow is... So that's what seeing the morrow is about. Yes, thank you, Glory said. I figured that one out. But did they know he'd be a prophet when they named him? Sunny asked cautiously. Not all Nightwings are, so how would they know that? Maybe another prophet's foresaw it, Tsunami joked. Wait a sec. I think my headphones started beeping. Just gonna see how much power is left on this thing. 30%. Well, That's not bad. Come on. Oh, gosh. Stop. That's not just me hearing that, is it? Please tell me it's not just me. I don't know. Starflight poked at the frozen ground with one claw. I don't know any more about that. I don't know any more than that, he said. Morrissey hasn't told me any Nightwing's tribe secrets. And you've read all the same scrolls as I have. True, Glory said. Lots of epic nonsense about wonderful Nightwings. They all have these awkward mouthful names. I think in the stories, their names do usually match their skills, if I remember right. Why are you asking? Starflight tilted his head at her. Because I just met one, Glory said, and I think he's here to kill us. Well, me at least. That got their attention in a hurry. She told them about Deathbringer and everything he'd said. Almost everything, anyhow. She didn't want them to figure out that she thought he was kind of cute. That is, before she realized he was here to kill her. Let's get out of here, Starflight said as she finished. Let's fly south right now and get back to the rainforest as fast as possible. Jambu poked his nose out hopefully. I like that plan, he offered. It does sound like the warmest plan, but what about mangrove? Clay asked with a shiver. I saw something else, Glory said. I think it's where Blaze and her army must be camping. She described the building she'd seen. Starflight and Tsunami both nodded. Makes sense to me, said Tsunami. Blaze would need a place of her own. She couldn't survive a day in Glacier's palace. Right, it's built mostly of ice, so she wouldn't even be able to use a fire there, Starflight mused. So here's what I'm thinking, Glory said. I'm sure Mangrove saw this place too. He'll head right for it, probably camouflage himself and sneak in looking for Orchid, so I'll go after him and bring him back while you guys hide somewhere Deathbringer won't find you, and then we'll all fly south as fast as possible. Wait, by yourself? Clay said. Can't one of us go with you? Who? Gloria said. Who else can disguise herself as an Icewing? Her friends all looked at Jambu, who blinked sleepily. And be helpful, Gloria added. I can be helpful, Jambu said to Leon. I bet I'm better at spotting camouflage rainwings than you are. Glory hesitated. That sounded kind of useful. She wasn't really sure how she intended to find Mangrove on her own. You can do that, she said. It's a game we play starting when we're dragonettes, Jambu said. One dragonette camouflages as stealth, and whoever sees it first wins. So, no good in cheese, but it's probably more practice than you've had. She thought for a moment and shook her head. It's too dangerous. I can take care of myself, and I don't need any help. Glory, Clay said in a sort of amiable, threatening voice. You take him, or we're all coming with you. Glory could tell by the looks on their faces that this was true. Stupid, heroic, we're a team idiots. Right, fine. We'll go in camouflaged. But I want to make sure you can look like an Icewing too. Try matching what I'm doing. She let her scales shimmer back into her Icewing disguise. Clay winced, and she guessed he recognized which dragon she used as a model. Watching Fjord die in front of him couldn't have been any easier for him than for her. Now, make your scales a bit wider, Glory said to Jambu, so we're not exactly the same. And shift around the fake icicle horns. She stepped back and studied him. I think that'll do. Can you remember Can you remember that if we need to become ice wings? Sure, he said. He held out his wings and looked at them. It's a pretty cool color. I'll have to remember it once we're home. We also need Icewing names. You can be Penguin. I'll be Storm. That should be easy to remember. I still think one of us should go with you, Tsunami interjected. Mudwings and Sea Wings are the enemy here, Glory pointed out. And no offense, guys, but it's not like Starflight or Sunny would be much help. No offense? Sunny squeaked. How am I not supposed to be offended by that? She lashed her tail and scowled. We'll get in and out faster if we just keep our scales hidden, Glory said. Don't worry, we'll be back by tonight. What if you find the missing rain wings in there? Clay asked. Glory flicked her tail, letting her scales shift back into the color of the rocks. We'll free them and come storming out in a big invisible herd, right? Clay and Tsunami nodded reluctantly. Come on, Jambu, Glory said. The rest of you stay hidden. I mean it. She sprang into the air with her brother beside her and let her scales adjust to the sky around them. As they beat their way north, she glanced back once and saw Sunny staring after them, while Tsunami waved her talons bossily. Still cold, Jambu moaned. Even with my wings beating, I think it's even colder. Well, we are up in the air, Glory pointed out. And the wind probably isn't helping, but those will be over soon, don't worry. She pointed to the building ahead of them. Just to warn you, there will be snow, but hopefully the Sandwings keep the inside warm with their fires. Snow? Jambu said, and fire. You know, I've never seen either of those. I've never seen snow up close either, Glory admitted. It looks fluffy, said Jambu. It wasn't fluffy. It was wet and piercingly freezing against their talons as they landed outside the walls. Jambu let out a yelp of pain, and Glory nearly tackled him to shut him up. Who's there? Called a voice from above. They both froze, the scales the color of the white ground below them. A Sandwing head poked out a window. Did you hear that? He asked. Another Sandwing head wriggled out beside his. No, I don't see anything. You're imagining things again. Burnt's armies show up to crush us, growled the first dragon. We'll see them coming from miles away, said the second, and they'll be frozen and weak from the cold, and we'll have Icewing backup by the time they get here. Stop interrupting our game! The second god withdrew into the room. The first glanced around suspiciously, his gaze trailing across the snow where Glory and Jambu crouched. Finally, he huffed out a snort and retreated back inside. Glory flipped her tail into her brother's talons and led the way, slipping around the thick stone walls until she found a dragon-sized door. Locked, of course. She glanced up, but she had already seen from above that there was no inner courtyard or openings anywhere on the roof, other than the chimneys, which were too small. The windows were all too narrow for a dragon to squeeze through as well. This was a proper fortress. She wondered if it had been built early in the war, when Blaze first came to Queen Glacier for protection and an alliance. This was a pretty generous gift for Glacier to give to her ally, a whole fortress right in Icewing territory. Deathbringer's words came back to her. Blaze had promised Glacier all this land if she won the war. Glory thought of the other Sandwing sisters. She wondered what Burn had promised the Skywings and Mudwings, and whether Blister had promised the Seawings anything, or if she'd just manipulated Queen Coral into supporting her. I'm not seeing a way to sneak in here, Glory whispered. Do you have any ideas? She felt Jambu shrug. Sorry, he said. I've never done anything like this before. They tried circling the walls one more time, but there was only one door. Glory couldn't see any gaps in the fortress's defense anywhere. Their only choice was to wait for the door to open and hope they could slip inside. But who knew how long that could take? The sun was finally drifting up the pale blue sky, reflecting off the glistening snow. Glory did not want to stand out here all day. For one thing, Jumper would probably freeze to death. She didn't like the cold either, but he'd never been out of a tropical environment before. Same goes for Mangrove, she realized. In fact, how would he have gotten into the fortress? Maybe he wasn't there at all. Maybe he was lying in a snowbank somewhere, slowly disappearing into the ice. Glory shook her head. Mangrove wasn't the type to give up if she read him right, and neither was she. Well, we'll have to earn us ice wings, she said. Just follow my lead. Jambo's head appeared, nodding agreeably as the scales shifted color. Glory let her scales change as well, then turned in a circle to check herself as best she could. It was the perfect disguise by any means, but hopefully these sandwings wouldn't look too closely. Between her camouflage scales and venom, she felt like she had a pretty good chance of escaping even if they did catch her. She marched up to the door and rapped smartly. Try to look like a soldier, suggested Jambu, who was slouching and rubbed his neck behind her. I don't know what that looks like, he whispered back, just before the door swung open. A heavy-set sandwing with broken claws on one talon peered out at them. He muttered. He muttered. We have an important message for Queen Blaze, Gloria announced. Take us somewhere we can wait until she returns. Surely, like her sisters, Blaze would be off leading a battle somewhere. Once they were shown into a waiting room, they could change back to camouflage and search the fortress for Mangrove without being seen. Until she returns? The Sandwing looked at her as if she were mad. Blaze is here. She's always here. I can take you right to her. End of chapter 14. Oh boy! That's not good. That's not good. Yeah, that's definitely my headphones saying no more power. Chapter 15. Let's see how many pages you hold. 12! Oh boy. 12. Okay. But the stream will be just over 3 hours then. Not 4, like I'd thought. Well, that's okay. Let's hope my headphones will... Yeah, they died. I'll just do this. There. So now you can hear the music, but I can't. Which is fine. Which is fine for me. This is weird. Anyway, chapter 15. Uh-oh. Glory thought. But it better be good news, said the Sandwing. Ow! I'm sorry! For freak's sake! What? Sorry, one sec. There! Ugh. I really need a stand for this thing. I really need a stand for this thing. Oh, we're almost halfway! Uh-oh, Glory thought. But it better be good news, said the Sandwing, stomping around and heading into the fortress. She doesn't like hearing bad news, and we don't like hearing her hearing it either. Queen Glacier needs to figure that out and stop sending all these gloomy reports. Glory and Jambu exchanged glances and hurried after him. The door thudded shut behind them, and another Sandwing guard followed close on their trails. Slipping away was not going to be easy. Blaze's fortress was not much like the glorious, extravagant palaces of Queen Scarlet or Queen Coral. The halls here were narrow and nothing was open to the sky. A fireplace held a roaring fire in every room they passed, so the heat was almost shifting, and yet cold winds still rattled through the small windows. There was no treasure adorning the walls, no gold or pearls embedded in the floor. Instead, the stone walls were hung with thick, woven tapestries. Each tapestry had a bright yellow sun blazing at the center of it. Eh? Get it? Blaze? Because her name is Blaze. Queen Blaze, the Sandwing. They're going to meet is called Blaze. And the sun is blazing at the center of these tapestries. Yeah, you get it. I'm sorry, I'm just being dumb. Each tapestry had a bright yellow sun blazing at the center of it, surrounded by patterns of images from the desert. Sinuous lizards, prickly cacti, palm trees, camels. White and green and blue covered the dull grey walls almost from corner to corner. They missed their home, Glory realized, and was shocked to find herself feeling sorry for these Sandwings. They'd come here to support Blaze. Probably they'd fled alongside her when Byrne tried to claim the throne. And now they were trapped in this icy world that was nothing like their own. Kinda like growing up in a cave instead of a rainforest. Cool, Jambu said. He pointed at a tapestry covered in rioting green lizards. That one's really wild. I like it. The Sandwing soldier stared at him. Really? Said the one in the lead. Our Icewind visitors usually make it pretty clear that they think our hangings are, how do they put it, garish and gaudy. Well, that's not our style. Well, they're not our style, Glory said, stamping on Jambu's foot, but we can still appreciate the artistry. Huh, said the first Sandwing. Never heard that from an Icewind before. He turned and kept walking. Glory shot Jambu a glare, and he wrinkled his snout at her. They reached the center of the fortress, or so Glory guessed, since there were no windows here, and stomped in a small... What the heck is that word now? Antechamber? And stomped in a small antechamber outside a pair of giant wooden doors. One of the Sandwings knocked twice, and they all waited. As the silence stretched on, Gloria realized that there was something huddled in a corner of the little room. It looked like a dirty pile of prey fur at first, but when she peered closer, she realized there were two scavengers in there. They leaned against the wall with their arms around each other, shivering. "What are those?" Jambu whispered to her, spotting them at the same time. "You're one of those ice wings who's never left the Queen's palace, aren't you?" guessed the second soldier, overhearing him. "I hear they rarely see scavengers that far north." He prodded the first with one sharp claw, and the two scavengers let out tragic little whimpers. "We found one of their hidden dens near the mountains and gathered up whatever we could catch. They're faster than they look. We only got 6 of them, when there must have been at least 20. He shook his head. "These two are what's left." "You're going to eat them?" Jambu said. "Don't sound so shocked," Gloria thought, lashing her tail. But she could understand what he was feeling. With their big eyes and strange arms wound around each other, the two scavengers looked like overgrown, less cute sloths. She couldn't imagine eating them either. That thought made her feel weirdly queasy. It didn't help that one of them was staring at her in the same plaintive way Silver did when she didn't want Gloria to leave her behind. "Of course," said the god. "We wreck any scavenger dens we can find and eat as many of them as we can. Glacier's orders. She thinks one day we'll find where they buried our treasure. If it still exists. Who knows what scavengers do with treasure," muttered the other god. He knocked again, and this time the door swung open under his talon. The room on the other side was larger than they'd seen so far. The smooth stone floor was covered in sand, and the tapestry on the walls here were more intricate, with images of dragons and crowns and jewels surrounding their yellow sun. Giant wine-red pillows and camel hair carpets were piled in a loose nest in the middle of the room, and sprawled across this was a strikingly beautiful sandwing. She had her chin propped on one talon and was gazing listlessly into a mirror in the sand in front of her. Her tail coiled gracefully across the pillows, with her poisonous bob touching the floor. Her wings were folded, and her scales shimmered with white gold against the red backdrop. Blaze lifted her dark eyes and saw Glory and Jambu in the doorway. She forced a smile and reached her front talons toward them in a welcoming gesture. "Oh, wonderful," she said. "We haven't had visitors in so long. I was hoping Queen Galatia would send us news." Glory bowed, and Jambu imitated her. "If this is a bad time, Your Majesty, we can wait until later." No, please come in," Blaze cried. "Okotillo, please bring us some tea. Oh, and some of those dried lettuces if we have any left." "Of course, Your Majesty," said the first guard with a respectful bow. Both Sandwing soldiers backed out of the room, leaving Glory and Jambu alone with Blaze. "Guessing it wouldn't be this easy to get a private audience with Burn-Up Blister," Glory thought. Blaze was not as cautious or suspicious as her sisters, but then she had no reason to suspect a pair of ice wings. "Is this about Queen Scarlet?" Blaze asked, leaning forward. "Did we find out if she's dead? Are the Skywings still following Burn? You know, if Galatia would let me go to the Sky Kingdom, I bet I could convince the Skywings to switch alliances to us. I can be really convincing. Everyone likes me." "Or they could throw you in prison," Glory thought, "or hand you over to Burn." "I know what you'll say," Blaze said restlessly. "What Glacia always says. Stay put and let her handle things. I know all that military stuff is too confusing for me, but I think I could be useful with the talking part. Other dragons like hearing me talk." I'm reading ahead. Sorry. Dumb. Stupid, stop it. I'm sure that is true, Your Majesty, Glory said politely. So, Blaze said, her pitch-dark eyes were too eerily similar to burns and blisters. They gave Glory the creeps, even though she knew a very different brain was behind them. What's your important message? Option 1, make up a lie. Option 2, run for it. Option 3, tell the version of the truth. Glory took a deep breath. The Dragonettes of the prophecy want to meet you. Blaze sat up fast. The Dragonettes? She cried. Glacier found them? They're looking for you, Glory hedged. Well, bring them here, Blaze said. We can have a feast or a party. We haven't had one of those in forever because, Queen Glacier disapproves of that kind of thing. But for something like this, I'm sure we could. Oh, we'll definitely need more dried lizards. We even have a pair of scavengers we could share. Or maybe we could roast a camel. One of them's a mudwing, right? He'd probably like that. We don't have anything for sea wings. Maybe Queen Glacier can send us some fish or a penguin. Do you know if she'd like a walrus? Wait. Glory said, as tempting as a feast sounded, and she knew Clay would collapse with joy if he were offered a roasted camel. She wasn't about to walk her friends back into another queen's clutches. There's a catch. They're not willing to risk coming inside. They need you to go meet with them. Blaze flung herself down on the carpets again, looking petulant. What about my party? She said. And I don't like going outside. It's too cold and it makes my scales all dry and ugly. You won't have to go far, Glory said. Jumbo was twitching in a weird, distracted way. She poked him with her tail. And isn't it worth it if the Dragonettes end up choosing you to be the next Sandwing Queen? Blaze worried one of her claws between her teeth, thinking. Jumbo poked Glory back and cut his eyes toward the far corner of the room. Glory squinted, but all she could see was land and stone walls and tapestry, except then the sound moved, and for the briefest moment a pair of eyes blinked out of the wall, then vanished again. Mangrove is here. I should wait for King Glacier, Blaze said. She wouldn't like me going off alone. I'm sure she wants to meet these Dragonettes too. Glory didn't like the sound of the Icewing Queen. She'd bet that Glacier was exactly the kind of dragon who would love to lock up 5 Dragonettes. Actually, Glory said, she sent us to tell you that it's a good idea. You should go ahead and meet with them and you can tell her all about it afterward. There's nothing to fear from the Dragonettes. Besides, Penguin and I will be there to protect you. Oh, said Blaze. That is reassuring. She gave Jumbo a concerned look, and he managed to stop twitching for a moment. Do you think they'll really choose me? Blaze asked hopefully, turning back to Glory. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm sure they will if they meet me. All right, let's do it. Great! Jumbo burst out. Let's go! Right now? Blaze said. Already? Glory wasn't sure if it was a good idea either. Her friends weren't exactly expecting Blaze to show up, and it would be hard to stay hidden from Deathbringer with the Sandwing parading along beside them. Still, this was what they wanted, a chance to meet the 3rd Queen candidate without risking imprisonment. Yup, right now, Glory said. She shot a significant look at Mangrove's corner, hoping he'd be smart enough to follow them out. Blaze picked up the mirror and checked her scales from several angles. Finally, she swept one of the camel hair blankets over the floor and flung it across his shoulders like a cape, then led the way to the door. Jumbo darted to the corner, grabbed a patch of sand, which turned out to be Mangrove's elbow, and him along after them. Blaze started to turn around, but Glory was there to distract her. "Tell me about this tapestry," she said, pointing to the one with two large sand-winged dragons flying across the blue background. "I don't remember seeing it before." "Oh, that one was my idea," Blaze said. "It's a tragic romantic story of how my brother fell in love with a dragon he knew our mother would approve of, so he kept her hidden from us. But then she ran off and broke his heart, although we were all thinking, or did she? Of course, because it is so likely that Mother just found out and had her killed, which was something she would totally do." Blaze chattered on about the tapestry as she swept through the antechamber. Glory glanced sideways at the two scavengers. The one with Silver's eyes had fallen asleep and looked even more pathetic now. Blaze was several steps ahead and not paying attention to anything but the sound of her own voice. Glory scooped up the sleeping scavenger and slid it onto her back. It did not smell very pleasant at all. No wonder the rainwings preferred fruit. Bananas never smelled this bad. She folded her wings back over it, hiding it as well as she could. Jambu saw what she was doing and grabbed the other scavenger. Even though it was awake, it barely struggled as Jambu tucked it under one wing. They hurried after Blaze, following her back through the hallway to the main door. They went by a few sandwing guards. Blaze addressed them by name, and they saluted. But she didn't tell them where she was going, and none of them looked suspicious or even curious. And none of them paid any attention to Gloria Jambu or their poorly hidden stolen goods. Almost every sandwing they passed was injured in some way. Blaze was unscathed, but all of her soldiers had scars sliding across their scales, or missing talons or wounded tails. Glory thought of Dune, their sandwing guardian, who had been so maimed by the war that he could never fly again. It had never occurred to her to ask him which side he had fought on before he joined the Talons of Peace. A blast of cold air smacked them in their snouts as they stepped outside. Blaze wrapped her blankets around herself more tightly, lifted her claws gingerly out of the snow, and whined, "Are you sure the dragonettes won't come inside?" Glory glazed. Blah, 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 blah. Yes. Glory glanced back at Jambu. A shimmer in the air beside him was all she could see of Mangrove, but she was relieved to know he was there. "That way, Your Majesty," she said, nodding south. Blaze heaved a sigh, spread her wings, and leaped into the air. Glory twisted around and dragged the scavenger off her back. She dumped it on the snowy ground, and it woke up with a yelp. Jambu dropped the other one next to it. "Go on, run for your scrawny lives," Glory said, poking a scavenger with her snout. The scavenger scrambled backward, then grabbed the other one's arm and took off running through the snow. This is so funny. Like, in the first book, Clay helps a scavenger, saves a scavenger. In the second book, Tsunami saves two scavengers. And now, Glory has saved two scavengers. Like, what's going on? Like, is this going to play a role further in the story? These scavengers who have been saved by dragons? Is this going to come back? I don't know. I haven't read that far. I only came here. "Do you think they'll be alright?" Jambu asked as he and Glory flew after Blaze. "It's so cold out here." "I bet that's what all those furs are for," Glory said. "Anyway, I'd rather freeze to death than be eaten by a sandwing." Blech, Jambu said. Meat-eaters, I don't get it. They caught up to Blaze and steered her toward the spot where their friends were waiting. As they flew, Glory scanned the ground below them for any sign of Deathbringer. The sun was high in the sky, although it felt as if it were far away behind a ceiling of ice. The frost glinted on the ground, and now Glory could see the scrubby patches of brown grass and twisted shrubs. A grey wolf trotted across the rocks, but he was the only sign of life she saw. Wherever Deathbringer was for the day, he'd hidden himself well. Her friends had done their best too. Several large boulders had been shoved together below the cliff to look like a fallen rock pile, and Gloria nearly flew right over it. She circled back down to land with Jambu and Blaze behind her. I'm raiding ahead again, I'm sorry. Sunny was the first one out. You did it! She cried. You found... Wait. She squinted at Blaze. Glory? That's an actual sandwing. I know, don't worry. Mangrove is here too, Glory said, flicking her tail. It's alright to show yourself now. The rainwing slowly materialized in a dull green, unhappy color. He ducked his head and wouldn't meet her gaze. Yikes! Blaze yelped, leaping away from him. How did that happen? Where did he come from? She looked around wildly as if she expected more dragons to suddenly poof out of the landscape. What do you know about rainwings, Your Majesty? Glory asked. She watched Blaze's face intently, wondering if Sandwing knew anything about the missing rainwings, and if it would show in her expression. But the potential queen looked as mystified as before. I heard they're pretty, she said, tossing her head, but I've never seen one. You have now, Glory said. She held out her wing and let them shift to a light, non-threatening purple. At the same time, Jambu's scales shivered back to pink, although a paler, chillier one than usual. Ooh, Blaze said enviously. She reached out and took one of Jambu's wings in her talons, inspecting the scales as if he were an inanimate I can't say. Why was that so hard the first few times I tried to say it? Inspecting the scales as if he were an inanimate tapestry instead of a living dragon. Jambu blinked at Glory but didn't pull away. Wow, I wish I could do that, Blaze said. I'd be a different color every minute. She turned over the wing so Jambu had to contort himself into an odd position. She didn't seem alarmed or angry to have been tricked by their Icewing's disguises. Glory wasn't sure whether to admire her bravery or roll her eyes at Blaze's lack of caution. Do you think the camouflage... Oh, well, what she says next is pretty... Uh-oh. Do you think the changing camouflage would still work if I had someone make, like, a coat of rainwing scales for me? Blaze asked. That would be pretty. She eyed Jambu's scales like she was trying to figure out how to take them off him. Mangrove finally looked up and met Glory's eyes with a worried expression. By now, Clay, Tsunami, and Starflight had all emerged from the rock pile as well. Starflight pointed at Blaze, his eyes wide. Glory! He cried. This is... You found... I know, Glory said. Everyone, this is Blaze, these are... She hated the phrase, but it was what everyone called them. These are the Dragonets of Destiny. End of chapter 15. 15. And last chapter of the day. Ah, my back. I should not be doing this for this long. Ugh. I should not be reading for this long. And someone's been here this whole time. Wow, I admire you. Listening to me jumble over words every other minute. Drinking water between every chapter. Messing up a lot of words that I probably shouldn't mess up. But like, I'm Danish, so some of these words are actually foreign to me. But yeah, that was it for today. 3 hours and 20 minutes of reading. But tomorrow we will be doing something else. I had hoped to be able to stream Minecraft every Saturday and Sunday, but that's sadly not the case. I need to figure out what the hell is wrong with Minecraft on my computer, or if there's something wrong with Twitch Studio, or if I need to like switch to Streamlabs, because like the video quality is so freaking bad whenever I try to stream at the same time as playing Minecraft. So that's sad. But I will be streaming. I will be streaming tomorrow. I will be streaming a Sandosides fan game called Side Quest. It's an RPG game. I played it once before, sometime last year. I don't remember. It's been a long while since I played it. This is just. It's only the prologue that's out, and they're still working on some kinks and stuff. Bugs and kinks and stuff in that. But yeah. And they're still working on the first arc, I think it was called. But it's a bit delayed because of COVID. It said on their Tumblr, which of course is totally alright and understandable. But I'll be playing that tomorrow. I do not remember the controls or what's happening. I probably will once I get to playing it again, but I don't currently remember. And then Sunday I will be streaming. I will be playing another Sandosides fan game, which is called Fight in the Mind. Thomas actually pointed this out himself on Tumblr. Not on Tumblr. I guess on Tumblr. I haven't been there for a while, but on Twitter. And I also were at the live stream, the Patreon live stream, that he did a while ago, where they were like filming another video, Joystick Joyride video, which he also said on Twitter, so I'm not spoiling anything, where they played that. And like, it's multiplayer, it can be multiplayer, but of course I won't be able to do that, because I'm just me. But there are other things to do in it, which I will be exploring on Sunday. So I hope to see you tomorrow and Sunday. But yeah, until then, I think we should close off the stream now. I've been going on for a long time. You won't have to listen to me anymore today. My horrible voice. It's really, like, yeah, it probably sounds very annoying to you. It does whenever I hear my voice on a video or a recording. Like, your voice is different from the voice you hear yourself talk with. I hate my voice, is what I'm saying. Just the way I hate my body. Oh yeah! And if you are one of those trolls watching this who like to tell people they're fat, then you are correct! And you hop into my chat and say that, like, a few streams ago, then you are totally correct, because yes, I am fat. Tell me something I don't know. Sorry. I got what's called fat jeans. Sorry. I will be ending this now. It is, oh my gosh, it is 1:30 p.m. Not p.m. a.m. 1:30 a.m. 12:30 a.m. Not 1:30. 12:30 a.m. It's past midnight. My mind, I am tired. I should not be this tired. But I am. Oh well. Well, I hope you had fun today listening to me read not 5 but 10 chapters of The Wings of Fire, Book 3, The Hidden World. I sure did. And whew, things are getting exciting. But yeah, that was it for today. See you guys later. Bye.